I think honestly we probably will just jump right into it because this particular like thing that we do for the like what we call them is the let's chats, and that's really just that's what we do is usually we'll be if we are streaming it, which we're not going to be streaming this one, but like the ones that we do, we literally have me running around in the background screaming at the game while we're chatting. So it's really, I mean, it's really just, like you said, it's just a conversation. So, I mean, really, honestly,
Cool.
we have Beard on with us, and then we have John. John, you're welcome back.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
good to be
really
here. Good
that's
to be
really the intro that I was actually not
Yeah.
planning on doing a really big intro.
Yeah, we
And
don't need
again,
that. Yeah, we just-
so if we want to jump into it, I mean, how's it been? It's been a while since we got to get you on here. So.
Oh yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, so I've been good, busy. Like,
Oh,
I'm
hey,
just,
we're appreciating it. So
so yeah, I've been busy, bouncing around doing a bunch of different things. So I've life is good, and when I get to watch sweet movies like Endgame and get excited about Star Wars, all this nerdy shit, life's even better. So
so Star Wars. Let's start with the least and work towards the longest I don't know how we want to work with that one, but let's. So the Star Wars trailer hit. Gosh, what was it? Was it 2 weeks ago now, or 1 week?
like 19 days ago. I just know that because I literally pulled it up to rewatch it, and it's sitting in front of me, and it says loaded 19 days ago. That's it.
It was 19 days, 16 hours.
I was like, wait, I thought we were talking about Star Wars here, not Star Trek Spock.
So I mean, what was the? I saw someone posted the comparison. Oh gosh, I can't remember the old movie, but it's the comparison with the guy
North by
running.
Northwest.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Yeah,
I was like,
movie.
I was
Hitchcock.
impressed. I was like, wow, that's really actually a spot on. I didn't even catch that.
Well, I mean, hell of a start, for movie fans that could catch a thing like that. That's a hell of a start of a trailer, and just a hell of a start anyway. I would say, like, I'm not a huge fan of getting too cemented in trying to discern what's happening in any given scene in a teaser trailer. I think every take has value until the movie comes out, and people should enjoy it and not get too tied to what they believe is happening.
Yeah.
But what I like about that opening shot is, first off, I love how long it takes. And then I like the fact that when it's over, I can reasonably argue either way that she's about to hop on that TIE fighter and try to kick some ass, or she's gaining speed to hop on that thing so they could head towards something together. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why I think that opening is pretty cool. There's action, and I think you could look at either way and be excited about either outcome. She's about to take it to that dude, or they're about to take it to somebody worse together.
Which we've seen both happen. So.
Right. So it's like,
to be fair, if he's gonna get try to take her out at all, he's got lasers on the TIE fighter. I'm just gonna point out the obvious on that one.
Why are you getting so
got
close?
other reasons,
he's
other
also
ways.
smart enough to know that that's not going to do much good.
Yeah, I mean that is certainly a possibility.
So then it's just for
when,
show, right? Just
when
for
utilizing a lightsaber, but
and the Force.
lightsabers aren't quite that good when you start talking about disruptor blasts.
I don't read the book, so I don't know how good they are at anything. Like, I know how good they are at any given moment in any movie as they make up how good they want to be.
Yeah.
So if they want to show a star destroyer, if they want to show a lightsaber deflecting a goddamn sun, I'm there for it. So I don't care. But I agree with you. My first takeaway is that people were going to get excited about her doing a flip to attack Kylo. My first takeaway was, I don't think that's what's happening. I think they're teaming up. But I'm not going to be disappointed at all if it's them about to fight.
Yeah.
I don't, either way.
Go face to
Either way
face.
is very plausible, I think, at this point. I mean,
Well, with the ending.
it's a teaser trailer to begin with.
I'd
Yeah.
like to see a fight between them now that she knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd like to
that's
see
what I
them
was
at their
saying, is
best
like,
fighting each other.
yeah, because at the end of the one before, The Last Jedi, that was kind of where it was left off, is it could go really strongly either way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what I had. Some my issues with Last Jedi had nothing to do with entertainment. I have a great time watching that movie. I thought my concern was it seemed to me as a standalone movie there was a lot of reality being placed within my fantasy world.
I can
and
see that.
and the thing I love about Star Wars, and I think the reason Star Wars resonates with people, is the fact that it is mythology. So walking out of Last Jedi, my thought was they either set up their own version. No, I'm not going to argue the degree of the degree of the 1-to-1 ratio of this, but their own version of an I Am Your Father, by making people think they understand the universe in a more grounded fashion. And then my hope was leading into, and this maybe is why I'm so excited by this teaser trailer, and I could be absolutely wrong. I don't care. I can be excited until the movie comes out. And the laugh at the end of the goddamn trailer is mythology. That like it's a cycle. It's a circle of things. Like I was like, holy shit! Like finally, I think they were smart enough to build a trilogy that where it was able to lull an audience into believing it could be one thing that's a little bit more mundane and a little bit more grounded in real emotions and real consequences. And then they're going to be able to get back to the bigger themes and the bigger realities of, like, if I want a reality, I'll watch Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. I want a decent amount, like 20-30% of reality in my Star Wars movie. If I wanted more reality, I'd watch Star Trek. Which I'll watch. I like them, but this is just me reacting to the trailer. I was excited by the idea that laugh to me meant mythology. I don't give a damn if the Emperor died in Return of the Jedi. We don't know what that laugh means. There's clones.
Right.
I mean, there's a whole goddamn movie called Clone Wars. There's a whole part of this. Like, there's all kinds of things that could mean. And I also think the laugh tells me we're going to learn more about Snoke. I don't think he was a throwaway. I think they're using him intentionally. I think some of the things they say, I think Abrams is smart enough, and I think Rian Johnson is smart enough, that some of the things they say about, oh, we were just making it up as they go, let me do what I want, he's going to do it, is part of deflecting from people guessing what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I can
and
see
I
that,
think I think they're smart enough and get paid well enough to take a little heat for that shit from the 10 people that keep posting complaints. Like, I think that's, what I think.
Well, and
this movie will prove me wrong or right.
Well, and he also went on record, like, just basically kind of bashing that too, with the whole, like, he's like, I don't care if they retcon my, he's like, I'm going to go to be entertained. And that's, I like that whole little bit of his. Yeah.
I think he's a much smarter dude than the people that tend to hate him because he ruined, quote unquote, ruined a movie franchise they don't understand.
This is, yep. See, I actually really like The Last Jedi, but I know that a lot of people, I don't know. I didn't really get the hatred for it, I guess.
But you're allowed to. I don't think you should hate. I don't think anyone should hate any art. So I think it's a little ridiculous that we've gotten to the point that people raised on pop entertainment now can, for some reason, get mad at pop entertainment. It's all throwaway popcorn garbage on some level. So it's a little silly to me that they hate it, but no one has to like anything. So if you want to stop liking Star Wars, I don't know why anyone would give a shit that someone else wants to stop liking Star Wars. The problem is they won't shut up about not liking Star Wars.
Oh, this sounds like you and me, Beard. Like,
what do you mean?
We couldn't possibly be talking about perception and how people take up art forms and.
No, not at all. That could be why I just at this point no longer like Star Wars and don't have much to actually add into the conversation because I truly did not enjoy The Last Jedi at all.
Yeah, but that's fair. Like what I'm saying, you're allowed to not like us. That doesn't. Right. But so this is an interesting question.
I'm not actively sitting and brigading against anything, of course, which I know is the commonplace thing at this point. But like, I just personally do not enjoy the direction. But I am somebody that, where my father actually had, pretty well the entire collection of all of the old extended universe stuff. So I'm biased in that regard.
Oh yeah,
like, you know what? All the guys that had this stuff that was doing it freelance felt like they had a a better like grasp on what this is all about to me. But I've yet to, of course, see the finished product, which is at this point not pulling a George Lucas. Like they've got something that I would figure would be written out ahead of time for all three films in a way I would hope.
So I mean that's my takeaway, and that'd be my main point to anyone who has an issue with Last Jedi. Like I said, I have issues with it. I was still entertained by it, but there's things I didn't really. I was like, I could question this. I would blah blah blah.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, I can't really judge that movie knowing that it's part of a trilogy.
Yeah,
I can't really say how much I liked it or hated it until I see like the story's not over. So there's a world where 3 makes 2 infinitely better to a lot of people that hate it. There's a world where it makes it marginally better, and there's a world where it doesn't do anything and just makes it all worse.
But in the same, as a consumer, though, if you get to the point where you get to number 2 and you're extraordinarily turned off by a number 1 that felt like it was very samey, you're not left with a whole lot of you're left with one thing. Lot of like dignity left for the franchise, or otherwise.
I think you're left with one thing. You're left with a new movie that comes out in December, and you get to see it or not see it. And I don't. Even if I hated I think Clone Wars is pretty terrible. I still was there day one when Revenge of the Sith. I mean, what movie are you going to watch this year aside from maybe like an Endgame and the miracle of human ingenuity and intelligence that is Hobbs and Shaw? Like, aside from those 2 movies, what are you going to see on the screen this year? It's going to be a better, at least visual 2 hours. And you can walk out and be like, crap, I don't like it. But you're still going to see that movie in the theater. What else are you going to do for those 2 hours? You got 2 hours to kill.
In another way and thinking and so on, this world has too much entertainment, which allows me to need to consume. I've got better things to do. I don't think there's better 2 hours. I don't think there's better 2 hours than the new Star Wars movie. I think their batting average is good enough that I think that if you looked at the math says that's actually not true. That doesn't mean they're not going to strike out in the third one. It just says the math says that their batting average is shit. These guys know how to make a good, entertaining hour and a half to 2 hours. And if a Major League Baseball player hit at the same average as Star Wars, and I'm saying, look, whatever problems you have with Jar Jar Binks, Phantom Menace is not a terrible movie. And Revenge of the Sith, he's just a Dark Lord. Like,
is
who really cares?
No. He's a forgettable mistake. Right.
John is going to hate me by the end of this. I swear to God.
I love just the absolute nope.
Like, and the nope isn't against the idea of that concept. The nope is like, I don't think it's funny enough for it to have lived beyond its initial.
Oh yeah,
that's why it's funny. That's it's funny.
It's a Norm Macdonald joke. It's gone back to being funny again.
Yes, exactly. It's ironic enough to be funny.
I'll need convincing. Like, you need convincing for Rise of Skywalker. I never need to give Jar Jar Binks another thought.
Oh man!
That stated, I do know a lot of kids that love Jar Jar Binks.
Oh yeah,
so at some level, like
it's like he did its job for what Lucas was after.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, but I mean, shouldn't that So more power to him. So more power to him. No, I'm trying to say how to I'm actually defending him in this moment because Jesus Christ. Like, if I was the age I am when now watching the first 3 movies. I'd have all kind what the fuck would people be saying about Empire Strikes Back after that came out? Oh, retcon. This is dead.
Right.
Stupid. Saw that some idiot. You have some dumb friend saw that coming. Right? Like, come on. Adults who love entertainment are the worst people on the planet, and I'm one of them. We're terrible people.
Hey, darn those opinions and ideas.
The opinions and conversations when they take kids too seriously. It becomes detrimental to their own enjoyment of life. I mean, just walk away at some point.
Yeah, there's definitely a point at that point. Like, there is a point in a degree that you have to say enough is enough and just move on with your life and start doing something that's actually more rational and overall is better for your health. in the end.
yeah. Or
and also constructive, because quite frankly, none of that is constructive. You can sit and say that you don't enjoy something, but then just like leave it go, man. Just leave it go.
Oh, my Twitter goddamn drafts folder is littered with me being like, just shut up. Like, don't say that. Like, just because something's bad, everything's hard to make. Like, good Lord. Like, promote the things you like and move on from the things you don't. But that's a hard thing to do. I get it. And part of it is because there is a lot of fun in talking about the things. Like, I got no problem with that. We've just, there seems to be, that we're in this place where that becomes rallying cry for negativity as opposed to then moving on and talking about things you actually do like. If people put half the energy into even the things they think are mediocre compared to the things that they hate, like, I think they'd live healthier lives at least. Well, and they might find they like more stuff, even shit.
yeah, really.
Well, that's what I know. We've had that conversation before too. Is like, just spending the energy. It's like, hey, you don't like it? That's awesome. Go find something you do like. Like it's nothing against. That's nothing against the people who, because they don't want you there either. Spreading negativity. So
well, it's also there's a common defense. It's like, well, I can have an opinion. Well, yeah, no one gives a no shit. No one cares.
Right.
Like, no one's saying you can have an opinion, but like at some point, but give me your opinion on the things you like.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like. I like to find more things that are enjoyable.
It's also the active raining on people's parades, I think, is the thing that for me at least that's really aggravating. It's because
the
it's
Destiny
like
community doesn't know anything about that.
No, not at all. Well, I mean, you take your pick on a gaming community too, and that's
I think this is across entertainment. It's any comic book, any video game, any movie, any TV show. It's the same. And I mean, at the same point, like, fuck, I brought this up, and now we're spending half of this time we're supposed to be talking about this dope ass trailer, bitching about people that are bitching. So what the fuck? We're the same. I'm the same type of piece of shit as the people I'm railing against. But I'm not really railing, just talking.
I mean, we've already talked about the teaser to the extent that it pretty well has. I mean, other than like locales, I think at this point, what else could we really kind of talk about? We know that, look, it's Rey. Oh, look, Kylo's back. Oh, look,
the crashed Death Star. Come on.
Yeah.
So here's what's not going to happen. They could just do it off panel, and I just need one line, or I just never mention them. The Empire had to kill all those Ewoks.
Beard, was it you that was going off about the Ewoks?
I mean, let's put it this way: if Palpatine actually does survive, like through all of this, you can bet he's got a vendetta against short, furry little bitches. Like he's going to rip that entire thing apart. At this point, I think he's probably forgotten about them. They should all be dead. They should all be dead. The rebellion didn't stick around to protect that planet. Yeah, I'm gonna say, especially if the First Order was like hanging around and whatnot.
They should all be dead.
We don't. Maybe that's just their way of like retconning the Ewoks.
We found the
Ewoks could not have killed them.
Ewoks are fine. The
Ewoks are the Empire's kryptonite, is what I'm hearing.
They I think they'd all be dead.
As my band director from high school used to say, you cannot tell me that the Empire failed against sticks and stones. You cannot tell me.
Well, they didn't, like one regiment did there, because the whole shit going. They also didn't stop X-Wing blowing up their goddamn space station. Right? So the sticks and stones...
This time they also had a bigger target with the Falcon in episode 6, and they failed on that one too.
Yeah, but I don't need reality in my sci-fi fantasy.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean,
like, you need to keep a baseline of realism based on the reality you've built. But if you get to moments and you give me fun over my real world realism, if you don't go for fun, no one's watching your game.
Nah.
I need to see Millennium Falcons flying through tight spaces to blow up a moon. Like, what? That's what I gave you $10 to see.
I mean, Abrams knew that very well with Star Trek. What is it? Into Darkness.
The Into Darkness one.
Because that also had a scene that was very similar to that. Granted, not the same size ship as the Falcon, but you could tell that's what he was going for.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of knows what audiences want. Like, he was just trying to bring a little more pep to Star Trek. I think it worked for a couple movies, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Terrible as it is, I think the third one was the most Trekkie of them, but that's a whole different conversation for a whole different day.
Yeah. It's not that great, but it is the most Trekkie. And yep. I'm a big fan of that director. Wasn't that was Jeremy? Not Jeremy. He's a basketball player. Justin Lin.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's good.
Yeah, you could tell Abrams wanted to do Star Wars, and I'm very glad that he got to do Star Wars.
Yeah, like I said, we'll see what happens with the third one. I think he'll bring it all together. And if he doesn't, like, there'll be more Star Wars, and eventually they'll get something that's whatever. I'm a big fan of almost every Star Wars movie. I like them all. Even Clone Wars. I don't know the next time I'll watch it, but there's scenes in it I really like. It also, if nothing else, gave us Jango Fett's like sonic bomb, which is the coolest sound in movie history.
Yeah, so, that's true.
So I don't like the other hour and a half I can give or take. I really like the Dooku Anakin Obi-Wan sword fight at the end in the darkness. It felt very paying homage to the original. It also felt like they were all good enough that no one, like, there was a subtext to me after, and Yoda comes in, he's smaller, does the flips and stuff. But in the first part of that fight, the subtext to me was, hey, remember that first movie where we had Darth Maul and he looked cool, he had double lightsaber, did flips and all this other shit? These guys are too good. You can't flip at this point. If you do a flip, you're getting cut in half. It just felt very like it felt very methodical and very I don't know. I really liked it. The way it was shot against the darkness was really cool too.
Right,
I do. Yeah.
But the rest of that movie is not very good.
Well, let's talk about a movie that was I thought was pretty good all around, and that was Endgame. I know Beard has a few opinions on that one too.
I mean, let me be fair right off the bat before you start throwing me under the bus here already. I did like it overall. Like, I have like very, very few qualms. I think that I think there was some cinematography that was extraordinarily forced that did not have a place that it needed to be within. But that's also, of course, but aside from that, no, I think it's a fantastic end to like a 10 or 11 year journey here that we've had with these guys, and I'm very excited to see actually what they might do with it later in a way, but only with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. I think that's about my limitations.
Yeah, I'm curious if they're going to do another. I mean, I can see them doing another saga like what they're doing. Because I know, what is it? Homecoming is technically the end of, is this phase 4? Is that what we're on right now?
Yeah, I think so.
Or is this, who knows? Yeah, it's the end of phase 4.
So basically, like, I think they said that Homecoming will be the end of the what's now being called the Infinity Saga. Even though. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out, because I know the other thing that was kind of that I've heard about going back and forth is that they're thinking about maybe doing and I just blanked on his name. Anyways, another big bad that I literally just blinked on this guy's name. He's the Silver Surfer.
Oh, Galactus.
Oh. Yeah,
because the other thing too is that I think they do. Doesn't Disney now have Fantastic Four back?
Yeah, and X-Men. Yep.
Yeah, and X-Men, which that's really what they needed to make both of them work.
Right.
All in all.
I was about to say, so we might, even possibly be looking at maybe a possible redemption of Fantastic Four.
I think they could do it.
Good one. What?
Yeah, I know. It's very weird for me to say that about Fantastic Four, but we might get
hysterical. Well, what would be hysterical is if Chris Evans comes back to be Johnny from I know they wouldn't.
Yeah, there we go. That's funny.
I'm sitting here going, ha. He would come back for like one thing and like a cameo or something, and everybody would be like, "Nope, never."
No, dude, they're 5, 6, 7 years from now, they'll be in the middle of their fucking thing, and Captain America will walk out.
Oh yeah,
yeah, really. I mean,
and someone's gonna get dinked off the head. That shield's gonna bounce off somebody's head, and the camera's gonna pan. And everyone's gonna lose their shit.
Could you also imagine though, like especially with the. Not to kind of jump ahead here a little bit, but with some of the time stuff that they did, if suddenly like they start playing with time and he shows up
Oh
somewhere.
yeah, well, I mean, because there's a few things too that that was actually a question I was going to ask you guys. Is like with the explanation from I always blank on her name, but the current Sorcerer Supreme that was before Cumberbatch,
before Strange.
She made the comment about how you have to return the stones back into the timeline to keep the basically the multiverse from splintering. But they took a lot more than the stones. Like I'm pretty sure he returned Mjolnir because he took it with him. But then there's like, what about Gamora? Like Gamora is out of time, and then there was who else? There was one other thing that they kind of like tweaked.
Well,
I think what they set that up, they answered she set that up by saying like that's not going to affect, that doesn't adjust the time in the main movie universe. That just means there's a reality again where there's no Gamora.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? So in our universe, she still died, and now the version of her before she died is still around, and we'll see her again, I'm assuming, in Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Probably.
Right. But like, so anything that's missing from another reality, that's just, I don't think they'll ever go back and be like, oh yeah, remember they took those
and I guess that's
from,
true. Is like the explanation from I love having Professor Hulk. By the way,
it was cool.
I was so happy to see that. But I guess that's true because that's how they use the explanation to get rid of the stones too. So it's like, hey, let's not play with these anymore.
Yeah. Well, it also sets up. I guess there'd be some kind of energy spike because all of the stones were on Earth so frequently and used so frequently on Earth that would draw Galactus, and they wouldn't have the stones to help fight against him. So that's a pretty good setup.
Well, and that would be a good setup for Silver Surfer to show up at least for the review. But yeah, so like Endgame in general, I kind of agree with Beard on that one. Like I was blown away by how well they concluded it. Because I'll be honest, Infinity War for me was kind of a miss. Like it felt way too rushed.
I think
they
set up.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking to someone a little bit earlier about this. It was like, I think Infinity War, if they had focused on Thanos, like they had focused on all the other films, had focused kind of predominantly on one person, I think that would have been, in my opinion, a little bit better. It would have made more sense to me. I see why they did, but it just felt like, because they had dozens of heroes that it just felt like they were trying to shoehorn everybody into it.
No, I thought this is why. That's a hell of an.
Oh no, like don't. I recognize it was a tall order, but it was.
It's definitely a lot, but I've never seen it done that well with that many people.
That's true.
Spider-Man 3, which is my favorite Spider-Man movie, by the way, outside of Homecoming, and now Into the Spider-Verse. They couldn't even balance 3 mediocre villains.
Right.
And
that's
now
true.
they were able to. All of those characters had in Infinity War had an introduction that and said something that kind of moved the plot together and at least let you know who they were and what was happening and how they fit in fairly short order. And you got to know all of their. That's almost impossible to do.
That's fair point.
Maybe it's too much to ask, but I think they knew they were building towards an end, and we got to get all the people we've introduced. Like we introduced all these. We introduced all these fucking people. Like use them. And so it's the same with Endgame. They were smart enough to kill everybody at the end of the last one, so they could focus on a smaller group, and then just pop all the rest of the people out of the portals at the end, which was a hell of a scene.
Oh my god, I loved it. I love that scene. Yeah,
so good.
I just love how the timing to me was just spot on. Like in the fights and everything, it didn't feel. I don't know. I didn't think it felt that forced. I thought everything kind of flowed pretty smoothly. I'm
actually amazed at how fast those 3 hours went. I saw it twice this weekend, and the second time was faster than the first one, probably because you were anticipating a little bit.
Right.
There was a little less wondering. You didn't get lost in kind of wondering, how's this going to work out? What's going to happen next? Who's going to? And those moments, so like 5 minutes before Thor braids up his hair and they're about to go kick ass. You're like, oh fuck, it's coming. And then And then 2 minutes out, and once that comes, you're like, oh, it doesn't even matter because that goddamn hammer is about to fly into Captain America's hand.
Oh my gosh.
And not only is that moment cool and deserved all the cheers it got in the theater the opening night I saw it, but the moment of him catching it, to me, is almost irrelevantly cool compared to him hitting that goddamn shield with the hammer and doing all the other things he did.
The boomerang thing? Oh, yes.
God. There's just such a smoothness to the way that he just decided to kick that dude's ass that was just a joy to watch.
It almost makes you, if he was like thinking about like what he could do with that hammer the whole time.
Yeah, since the time he was like, or whatever, or whenever he, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think it was Avengers actually. That's
I think
Age of Ultron.
Sorry. Age of Ultron.
Yeah. That's when he picked it up and Thor like has a freaking heart attack.
Yeah. Pretty
I guess
good. It's a good
he doesn't
payoff.
pick it up. That's right.
I think
he moves it. Yeah, he moves it.
But
like
just
inch,
that
maybe.
is enough to make Thor go, wait a minute. Hold on here.
That's mine.
Yeah. You can't have that.
Oh my gosh, the reintroduction of Thor. I've never heard a theater just die of laughter.
It's pretty funny.
It's just like when I'm on vacation.
And it's like and they got his two buddies in there.
I know.
Can't kill off Korg, man, and Meek.
Yeah, you can't throw out Korg. Korg's got to be in there somewhere. I know
he's too good.
Hated him, but you know what?
Oh no, I
Korg
loved him. I
Korg
loved him.
Great.
He was
that
one of the.
So funny.
We were kind of mentioning Easter eggs.
My buddy Meek.
Like we were mentioning Easter eggs. Like that was one of my favorite ones from Ragnarok. Now, admittedly, Ragnarok was just a freaking amazing movie in and of itself. But I mean, Korg was just hilarious part, and I think that was the one too that they said like the majority of the lines between Thor and Korg were actually completely just on spur of the moment. Like it was there was not like an actual huge script for them on that, because like I know the scene where they're talking about him losing his hammer and Korg's like, oh, was it a very special hammer to you? Like that was completely just him just bullshitting with Hemsworth.
That's funny.
Yeah, most of Ragnarok, to my knowledge, from watching the special features, they actually had said most of the film was pretty well just
for the moment.
Which I was like, that makes a lot more sense the more that I view it now.
It's my birthday.
I mean, Thor is supposed to be he's the god, but he's sort of like Azathoth. He's sort of the idiot god.
Mm-hmm.
In that respect, he's like supposed to just be messing around and whatnot. He's still a kid in a candy store. He's still got Mjolnir he's got to deal with, and so on. Even out of the comics or early days, that's pretty well what he was. He was just, your drinking buddy more than he was an actual combat buddy in a lot of rights. But he was, I don't know, he's always just been that way, and I liked how they portrayed that in Endgame quite a bit.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I think
Rocket pairing up with him was the
best.
Yeah,
you're gonna go in there. I'm scared.
It's like, hey, we haven't seen each other in so long. How are you? That was great too. I think what they did though with like introductions as well, before I forget to make my point on that one as well, they were or not really introductions, but like those that had screen time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like those that didn't get a lot of screen time were the ones that we are going to see a little bit more often later on anyway.
Yeah, like Rescue.
Yeah, like we're going to probably see some of these guys again later on. Like again, Doctor Strange, I really think we're going to see more from him. I think
for sure.
for a fact already with Black Panther, like we're going to see more from him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There are several others that they had that were monstrously underused in terms of like how many characters they had in a movie of way too many characters. But I think that's what they were kind of trying to do. And I feel like the ones that got a lot of screen time we're probably not going to see too often at this point.
Well, it was a send off for
see...
that core Avengers team, right? So I think they wanted to give them as much screen time and give them all the closure for each of those characters they needed.
Well, and I wonder how Guardians 3 is going to go, because if Thor is going to be in Guardians 3, then I need to see it. First thing. Secondly, is going to be like how they're going to end up playing with that. And if they decide that like that's going to be his last one, or something else is going to cause him to go out, I don't know. Like that's where I'm wondering this core Avengers team, and like there's not too many of them that are left over that could make appearances. And I think Hawkeye as well. I think he's officially done at this point with getting his family back anyway.
Well, he'll have a TV show, right? He's going to have that Disney Plus TV show.
Right.
Oh, is he?
Maybe. I mean, so I don't know how real any of those were. They might have been setting up to get people's expectations in the wrong or right way, because Scarlet or Black Widow, didn't they announce her movie or something? I mean, they still could do it.
She's got a standard. I was just reading something that they were like, wait, what? So how is that going to work? Because
because it's a comic book movie. Who gives a shit? It could take place. It could take place 10 years ago.
Well, just like
or
anything else,
they've already messed with time.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and just like anything else, if they continues the continuity, so to speak, of how the movie is going to be, then at that point they could carry it on, a la what they were trying to do, I will argue, with Captain Marvel. So that's one other piece of it. If they're just trying to like add on additional story, or like a additional background to something, whatever. So they could easily do something like that. Like she could actually be somebody that helps with starting out the full Avengers team and whatnot. Since we know for all of a sudden it's like this side of her film is Iron Man 2, but it's from Scarlett's point of view instead.
Sure,
that would be kind of fun. I don't know.
I mean, they could also they have the potential in their own Bourne Identity trilogy,
right?
Just a straight superhero espionage, and kind of try to tackle a different genre within the superhero world.
Yeah, well, and that was what I was going to say too, because we could finally find out what happens in Budapest.
Mm-hmm.
That could be it would be a Black Widow, but it would also be a Hawkeye film too, where he pops in a little bit into it and all that. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that'd be interesting. Like, to me, things like the Budapest references, those are things to imagine for the rest of our lives, because they've had 1,000 other. We are some shit with, right? Like they said it enough times that you don't need to see it, because any given person could give you their take on what they think might have happened. I mean, obviously we don't have the details, but world building to me is having people be able to say shit that make people want to see a movie of it, and being smart enough to never give them that movie. Yeah. Because you can give them Budapest and set it in anywhere else in the world, and no one will know that it's the same basic story, because they're always going to imagine. But now what you have is 2 stories as opposed to 1.
It's sort of like, how Nick lost his eye and how it's now.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's just a cat. It's just a cat scratch.
Yeah. I'm gonna say it changes like 3 or 4 scenes I can think of, and most of them happen in what was it, Winter Soldier. It's just like I don't know if I really care about your eye anymore, Nick. Maybe you should just shut up about it.
Yeah, I thought that was I had a couple problems with Captain Marvel. Hell, I enjoyed it. It was shot well. I like the character. I think to me it was the same as most Marvel first movies. I didn't think the first Thor movie is that great. I liked Black Panther a lot, but it felt like another first movie. I think the next Black Panther will be infinitely better than the first Black Panther. I think the next Captain Marvel will be infinitely better than the first Captain Marvel.
Well, especially if they continue on.
Same with Captain America, right? Like they've kind of proven. Now people can give or take or 2, so maybe that fucks up my equation here. But I think usually, and I think the opening credits of Thor 2 are so good, the rest of the movie is worth watching. The animated, because Tim Miller, the guy that directed Deadpool, the guy from Blur, directed the opening. I don't remember what. They exponentially get better. They've proven their track record. They kind of put a movie out, and I think they tried to do their best. Like, I'm a big fan of Joe Johnson, who did the first Captain America. The Rocketeer is one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't think that first Captain America movie just felt like a comic book movie. But Winter Soldier fuck, that's a good goddamn movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
And then they just amped it up for Civil War. That's another movie. They balanced all of those characters in a way that I don't give a damn if anyone wants more time with any of the characters or wants more this or wants more that. The fact that that movie flows at the pace it does with how many characters are in it is an impressive goddamn feat of storytelling and entertainment construction. And I think that trumps most nitpicks anyone could have with that movie. And I think Winter Soldier has one of the best villains in all of these movies.
Yeah.
Character, first off, that actor's fantastic, and the character and his motivations and the way he put that puzzle together to destroy these people was fantastic. But yeah, so that's one. I think loved Black Panther. I can't wait to see the next one. I think it'll be better. I liked Captain Marvel. Even if I didn't, I'd still be excited for the next one because I think they're such good storytellers. They're going to get better at what they do with each of these characters. So I think,
I think that's the whole premise, though, especially with something like Civil War, and granted this still ties in with Endgame as well. I'm not ticked off at the fact that certain characters didn't get longer screen time because they wrote it to work.
Right.
Like,
the writing is just so good.
Yeah, that's the whole thing that kind of miffs me and makes me not necessarily like something like Captain Marvel. I think as much as some have. Is just that the writing felt very off pace and whatnot. Like it feels like the weakest of all of the Marvel films. But I will say that it is a Marvel film. I will say that it's a comic book movie. But you can obviously see where like the worst felt it was, and like where the best is. And like Thor movie 1 has to be up there with Captain Marvel in terms of like bad writing, and just like placement and whatnot. And Endgame just did not suffer from that. Like anything save for like two scenes, I think, were very coherent. They knew what they were trying to do. And I think overall it wasn't a forced presentation. It was actually very well done presentation.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think they probably had a little bit of time and a lot to do with that Captain Marvel movie. So I think they did about as good as they could have done. Like at the end, she kind of accepts her powers pretty fucking quickly. I don't give a shit. They didn't have any time left. Like, and she needs to kick ass in this movie. So it's like because I've seen people like, first off, like I've seen the arguments online. I try to stay out of this shit because I'm an idiot. But I've seen like the Mary Sue arguments and all this other stuff and these stupid terms. That's not the Captain Marvel was not a Mary Sue because that movie in that place with a character of that power happened to be a goddamn woman. If that movie was to have him wreck shit at the end of that movie so that he could wreck shit in this next movie. That's why she had to accept her powers and be able to fly and do all the stuff at the end. Not for any other reason than we have content to make. We have another big piece of content to put out. We need this character to be in a place.
We have 5 minutes.
In this next piece of content, so we need to do it. And here's what they also know: most people are just going to take the goddamn ride. So if some people are going to get pissy, like at least they'll be pissy after they paid our money. We're going to try to make the best movie we can. Like nobody's trying to make a shitty movie, and I don't think it's a shitty movie. So that's a bad term to use. But I was like, oh, okay, well, I get it. That's fine. And it looked cool when she was breaking all that stuff and saving everybody. Like it looked nice. My bigger problem with a movie like Captain Marvel was the soundtrack is terrible, and awful. I don't care who has another opinion. I think it's a terrible soundtrack.
No, it's awful. It is awful. Anybody that says otherwise, it's awful.
But I don't care if you like. I'm not even talking about the actual like someone wants to dance or sing or those songs are meaningful to them. They're awful because she didn't exist on Earth when those songs were around.
Yeah, exactly.
So
this isn't freaking Peter Quill here. This isn't Guardians of the Galaxy. Like no.
Well, no, I'm saying like but I'm saying she wouldn't. The Peter Quill actually defends their choice because he had a soundtrack. The soundtrack to the movie doesn't need to be her soundtrack. So that's all fine. I had no problem with the music up then. Whether or not the songs conversation, I had no problem with the songs they were using for the movie until, and maybe someone can do different math than me and find a reason why this happens and this and isn't a problem. When she goes to talk to the Supreme Intelligence and she walks in and there is a Nirvana song playing on a record player. She did not exist on Earth when that song came out.
Nope.
So suddenly all the other songs, which I didn't necessarily like themselves anyway, I thought there were better songs for each of those moments. Suddenly you've made the music tied to her character, and all those other songs fall apart because they're all from part of her life where she does not know those songs exist.
Right.
So that was my bigger problem with the movie. Not the acting, not the way it was shot, not the story, not the pacing. That goes back to a little bit of laziness in the I think that was its biggest. But laziness term. Look, I think it's hard to make shit, so I get defensive about talking too much shit about stuff. But so I don't think it was laziness. I think they had a lot to do and probably a little bit of time. And I don't know that many people could have made a better movie for knowing what they had to start with, which is introduce a character no one's ever heard of before, and end with her being able to fight Thanos. That's a lot to do.
Well, Captain Marvel really doesn't have the greatest of any kind of source material at this point, except for her older ideas of Ms. Marvel, which probably would have made a lot more sense to start with, and then have her develop into Captain Marvel.
Not for what they need.
I really disagree with that one. I don't know.
They've got function on a Miss Marvel. They needed Superman. They needed a Superman. That's the thing. That's the one thing they were missing. Thor's not Superman.
And this is where I think my argument would come in with the ideas of pacing and whatnot being a problem, because her utilizing her powers and the forms and functions she had, that comes down to explanation in terms of that pacing. And just unlock and go. I don't know. It felt,
right. Could have been better, but that's what I'm saying. Now it's out.
That does feel like the very forced idea, and I have those issues in that angle. But that's where I think they would have been better off kind of starting with the Miss Marvel idea instead of the Captain Marvel. But I know they're trying to wrap in with the that's more I think what I mean by the Miss Marvel instead of the Captain Marvel idea. But I get they had to wrap it in with the Kree somehow, which was stupid. But that's my entire opinion.
That was the best part. We walked out of the movie, and my wife had gotten with us, and she was like, wait, so they were bad guys from the very beginning? I'm like, yes, they're the Kree.
Yes.
And I'm like, and she's like, the Who? I was like, oh no.
Oh boy.
We're gonna be here for a while.
Like the scroll. I did really the scroll twist, because I think it sets up some interesting them. I still think they're going to be bad guys, so it's going to be interesting to see how that.
Oh yeah,
like the twist of how they're going to go back and forth. I think they're too interesting of bad guys for them to stay good guys. But I thought that was a very choice, because I don't think anybody saw it coming. No comic fan was like, the Skrulls are going to be good guys. They're like, no, they're not. And I think that makes for entertaining movies. And whatever, it was fun. Like I said, I had a couple complaints. Mostly it was the soundtrack, and it's not my favorite movie ever, but most movies aren't. So that's not really a knock.
So what about Easter eggs in Endgame?
Like what? Give me examples.
So I know for like the example that I really liked was the inclusion of the kid from, I think it was Iron Man 3.
Oh, that was the best. Yeah.
I was like, yes, you actually brought him back. In the funeral scene. No, that's what I was.
And I was like, "Who the fuck was that kid?"
That's what everyone was like. Who the hell was this? Like, who is this random guy? And I went and looked, and I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." Because it's been, what was it? It was like 5-6 years following the.
It's been a little while.
Well, and then Iron Man 3 was also I think a couple years, but yeah, no. So like there was that, and then did I miss it, or did they just never actually fully introduce Rescue? Like she showed like Pepper's the suit that Pepper has is the rescue suit.
No, they didn't. They had no room for that. Yeah, they didn't.
Yeah, she just shows up, right?
The fact that he was right. I mean, they introduced the helmet that he was
right.
Making something, and so then you can extrapolate that. This is once shit started to go down, there's a scene that nobody in the world needs of him saying, shit's going down. If this asshole shows up, this is your suit. Like, fight to survive. Okay, cool. And then she shows up at the end of the movie. Like, no one, they didn't name her. Just everyone knows who Gwyneth Paltrow is, and they've seen Pepper be Pepper, and they saw her kick a little bit of ass in 3. And
3,
yeah, and so now they're like, let's just get her back out there, give her something cool to do. She's been in all these damn movies, like not getting to have all the fun all these other people have. So let's just give her some cool shit. Right.
No, I
mean, she's like the straight man, right? She's like Tony Stark's straight man on some level.
Mm-hmm.
Basically.
Yeah.
And of course, there were people that had problems with what they did with it, but I don't know. I like that part. I definitely liked that they introduced her that way.
Oh my god, I think that was one of the. Oh my god, that was one of my favorite parts. Was when I was telling, I was explaining. My wife hasn't seen it yet, but I was trying to explain that entire scene where all the women of Marvel, like, I was like, it was so cool because it just keeps panning out. And there's more and more people.
It is such a cool visual.
And it's like, and the only guy in it is Spider-Man, who's gotten, the crap kicked out of him. I'm like, that's awesome. I think that was, and then they had the sister from Black Panther that I always forget her name with her lion gloves.
Yeah, Shuri.
I'm like, yes. Yeah. I'm like, oh gosh.
This is great. I thought that was that visually, that's a
great visual, just terrible execution.
Because you're kidding me.
The fact that all of a sudden you're going to tell me that you got all the ladies in one little spot like that.
Fucking no. They do. Yeah, they do.
No.
No one needs to see the. Here's what happens: it's a 3 hour, 15-minute movie. No one needs to see the shot where they all kind of see that someone needs help and rush over, or no one like.
That's why I'm saying
it's a cool visual.
But that's what I'm saying. It's a great visual, but it's terrible execution.
No,
that's all.
No, it's not.
No.
Here's what the directors know. Hey, should we explain how they all get there? No. Well, why not? Because they all fucking got there. Who gives a shit? Like, this is the important part of the movie. Keep this fucker moving. It's 3 hours.
People need to go to the bathroom.
Well, they're like, come on. Like, I'm just saying, I get the idea of wanting that, but that scene is there for one reason: to be fucking cool. And it was fucking cool. That's it. And that's it.
Yep. And that's why it's terrible execution and a little on the poor side.
Cool,
but it might be freaking awesome.
Cool. Look, like I said, I don't want a single moment in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy that's cool over function of story. Not a single goddamn moment. Everything needs to fit in a goddamn movie called Endgame where planets are dying and shit's like... Especially when you consider the ratio... I actually hit record on my watch. And it is giving me a transcription of everything I'm saying now.
I mean, I'm gonna just at least say it this way. It pulled me out of the sense of immersion that I had.
Here's what I'm gonna guess, and that's fair. And that's fair to everybody who had that same experience. That's fair. Here's all I would say is you consider that moment and being pulled out. Your ass got pulled back in real fucking quick. It didn't matter because some shit happened in the next 30 seconds of that movie that you were back in it.
Well, that's why I say like 9 out of 10. Easy because of the
which is not a complaint, right?
No, fair. it's not a complaint,
right.
But it's where what are the things that I can look at it and go, why are you doing this necessarily?
That's absolutely fair. That's absolutely fair.
Is there some kind of agenda you're trying to fit to, or are you just trying to make something look like freaking cool? Because I would hope that it would be the latter, especially in
sometimes hitting an agenda with the also overlaps with cool.
And that's the portion on that angle that I will always give. But again, like I cannot look at that scene and say that it was well executed.
Fine. That's fair. So here's where you get credit.
Say it is awesome.
Here's where you get credit, regardless of even if you were to say it looked neat, but that moment is trash. Fuck that moment and fuck everybody involved with it. Here's the problem with. I'm going to round it up to most people, although my math again. Other people, many people, would then be like, "I hate that movie" because of two moments that like, which is just ridiculous. Everybody should have every movie is flawed. Everything there's moments you're gonna get pulled out. There's things you don't like. That doesn't. But when that kind of stuff starts to overtake your ability to look at the whole of what you just experienced, especially as adults who consume a lot of entertainment and
Right.
be able to then judge how that actually weighs against other entertainment you watched and liked. And if, like, I don't know. So, like, to your credit, the ability to be able, opinions and critique are valid. Emotions are valid. Everyone should have them. Everyone should be able to talk about them. What happens is they start to dogpile and steamroll into these things where it's like 2 moments in 3 hours literally have some idiots on the internet livid.
Yep.
And it's like, all right.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, I'm not sitting here brigading. I'm not sitting here trying to say, like, no, go hate this movie because of this. But if would it have done more to the credit of taking it out? Possibly. Would it have gone, like, against those that, like, really, for somebody like myself who grew up watching Alfred Hitchcock, like North by Northwest, who really cares about stuff like cinematography, I think about those things while I watch the film. So for me,
so you're saying you don't even think that shot was shot so well?
Oh,
now, whether or not this isn't cinematography, whether or not it was edited to make them all come, but the way it panned out and they stepped up, it's cinematographically, it's a beautiful looking setup and shot.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Like I said, it's a cool movie. It's a cool movie, but it's a cool shot. But it again fails in the perspective or ability to actually make sense within the flow of the moment, which I know why they did it, because there is so much junk going on the screen otherwise that you're going to have the average Joe not think about, like, how did they get to that position. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, you're going to have the scrupulous idiots like me that will sit and be like, how did they get to that point in the movie that they had all of them sitting there? And I get the whole, of course, general intent and idea. You can't please everybody. I mean, for God's sake, I make content on the internet. You cannot please everybody in that regard. But that being said, like, I don't think it pulled from my general satisfaction of the film, like, at all.
Sure. Yeah,
but that moment is just
just caught you.
I know I'm harping on this. I'm sorry, but it
You're
really
making your point. That's not wrong with that.
really did, like, throw me off for, like, that those seconds. I was like, what is this? Especially for characters that I, like, really did enjoy, like the fighters in Black Panther, just absolutely stellar. Yes. The work that they did with them, the choreography with the fighting and everything that they did with them was fantastic. Even for the couple bits that they had in Endgame for them, but just all the stuff that they've, like, that's the thing about Endgame that I think overall is just amazing, is that it's a culmination of what have you learned in your time as these characters, as well as, like, your time being able to, like, learn, play as, or understand these characters. Like, what have you done to grow yourself as an actor, actress as well, as time kind of went by with the characters too, because you can see how they grew. Now, granted, Tony Stark just had to be Robert Downey Jr. I mean, other way around, obviously. But you get what I mean. Like, there's those times and those moments where in Endgame I feel like that really shone.
I agree. Yeah, especially
amazing.
Like Black Widow was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything she did. I might have called her Scarlet Witch earlier. I don't remember, but yeah, Black Widow.
I don't think you did. But yeah.
Okay,
like,
good. Yeah, Black Widow. Scarlett Johansson's fantastic as Black Widow. The scene of her, trying to hold it all together.
Oh God,
the peanut butter sandwich.
The peanut butter sandwich.
And the like the little snark in her, and just then how deadly he is, and then that moment with her and Clint on the Hawkeye on the cliff.
Vormir,
yeah, that was great.
Yeah, talk about a scene that literally, like, ripped it out of you. Like, that was amazing.
And the great part about that scene was, like, there was a legit part of me where I was like, okay, which one of them is gonna go?
Yeah, you had no idea.
Like, because I'm like, it was like up until the very end, they were both neck and neck. Like,
yeah, I don't think they have the guts to have killed Hawkeye and have that.
Well, yeah,
where they brought everybody back, and his wife and kids are like, "Where's Dad?"
Oh God! Oh, I didn't. I think about. Yeah, that's fair.
I think that would have hurt a lot more.
That scene.
Yeah.
They didn't set that family up for that moment. Yeah.
It's like,
but what they said Hawkeye, they did think about it. The idea is so broken by the loss of his family. He gets them back, but then lost the only other person he ever fucking loved. Like, that's great.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Jeremy Renner did a great job. He can convey so many emotions and so many. Dude's good.
I don't think he gets enough credit for the work that he's done on these films and others, quite frankly. I absolutely love him in like every single film I think I've seen him. As an actor fantastic. In general, he's amazing. Yeah. I mean, it's hard in these ones. Not only are there so many characters, but Robert Downey Jr. is just too damn good, and then Chris Evans is just too perfectly goddamn cast. Don't you mean Tony Stark? I keep having to make the joke because that's the joke that's out there online right now, is that RDJ just had to play himself the whole time.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like talk about casting that was set right. Like that's I think that the full testament to what you were, I think, probably going to say. I'm sorry, John.
That's right.
How casting in general for the Marvel films, just the MCU in general, has been very good. I would say for maybe one or two characters that have kind of missed the bill of what I've always envisioned out of the comics, or even in like short form of what the comics would be. But I think just overall, they I think nailed casting.
Yeah, and when you look back over like how well it was, like nobody knew. Like they cast Chris Hemsworth, and then like he's Kirk's dad for 5 minutes in a movie. Like, who the hell is this dude going to play Thor? You know, and he comes in and nailed it. Now I had seen he's in another great movie, David Twohy, the guy that did Pitch Black. It's called Perfect Getaway with Steve Zahn and Mila Jovovich, and he's in it, and he looked bigger than he did in Star Trek, and he looks meaner. I think he's got long hair, and I was like, oh shit, maybe they did cast this guy all right. I still didn't know if he could do it, but he looked like a dirty ass Thor in Perfect Getaway if you squinted. So I was like, all right, maybe well, because it's a completely different character,
right?
I don't know if it's Perfect Getaway. I recommend it. It's fun. It's about couple Timothy Oliphant's in it too. Yeah, he's good. A couple on vacation in Hawaii, and then they meet up with another couple, and there's a couple wanted on the island for murder, and you don't know which couple it is, kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty fun, like a afternoon movie. Nothing big.
I'm trying to think. That was pretty much.
They're casting Peter Parker. That kid is perfect.
Yeah. Oh gosh, the interviews where they've assigned Benedict with him because he can't keep his mouth shut.
Yeah.
He keeps like, well, they didn't. Cumberbatch is like, shut up.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, okay, but there's a couple more, and they're all in the same they're one right after the other. The elevator scene with Captain America.
Oh gosh,
it's so fucking good. What a great payoff to just fuck those guys over with that. So good.
Having that as the Redux is just amazing.
Yeah, so good.
Like if any scene they were going to take again and utilize again, that may as well have been it.
Well, and I also like the slight nod.
Perfectly.
I love the slight nod to the comic book where they had Captain America do the whole Hail Hydra thing.
Yeah.
I was like, I picked up on that. I was like, oh my god, I don't know if that was intentional, but that was.
Well, they did that in an old man Cap, like obviously
god,
America again, but you could imagine like adventures he had in time as old man Cap or whatever. Like, but then also right after the Hail Hydra, Cap on Cap action. So
god, I can do this all day. I know.
I know. So good. That's such good writing. Yeah.
The one-liners really, I've always enjoyed them in the MCU, but I think Endgame they just had several that were they just knocked it out of the park.
Well, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, especially when they're going up against each other. They had to get a few in there, but yeah.
Well, because like then when they use like the catchphrases for each other, and it's like, oh god, I do sound like.
Wait, are you saying they pull a Marty McFly and Doc Brown? Is that what you're?
Wait, you mean Back to the Future's bullshit? It's like, I'm sorry, the fact that the entire concept of the time heist came from the guy who doesn't understand what he's talking about is the best part. of that entire thing.
They do a great. The humor does they do a great job. Jokes coming from character as opposed to any actual like defined joke set up and punchline. It's the way these characters, you can see them responding to things naturally. Like
right.
Like they have funny. It's the reason Ghostbusters is fucking funny. Those characters are funny in and of themselves. How they react to the world. They're not joking with each other. That's who they are. Or I mean, they're joking with each other, but that's who they are. As opposed to other. It's not like a sitcom or like a Big Bang Theory where it's just punchline and laugh track. Marvel and even other movies do it poorly, but the Marvel movies have been pretty good. They got a pretty good track record of the humor coming from character, as opposed to it just being jokes for jokes'
like
sake.
Forced in.
I mean, that is America's is a little bit forced. I don't know that Captain America says that, but they probably they needed to verbalize what he was thinking so the audience would get it.
Yeah, so. I just oh my gosh, Ant-Man to me just continuously blew the jokes for my personal humor. It was just like I was dying every time he had something.
Well, he's another one they gave a lot more to do too. He had great scenes, a scene with his daughter, and a couple other moments.
The peanut butter sandwich,
pretty good. Peanut butter sandwich. Anyone eat that?
Yeah. You wouldn't eat that. I'm starving.
Well, I mean, just this is a little joke thing, but like him fixing his tacos just to lose his tacos, just to get called an idiot, just so Hulk can give him
another
regular size mini tacos. Like so good, so good. I think they call so he and Star-Lord. They're the two they call.
Because so he's an idiot.
Yeah. Oh, that was a great
either
moment
him
too,
or a tree.
Star-Lord singing.
We see it without. We see it without the music.
There's so much happens in that movie. Nebula in that movie, and that girl's never going to get the credit because nobody can recognize. But she is so good in that. I mean, she's been good in all of them.
You mean Amy Pond?
Yeah, Amy Pond, right? Like she did it. Yeah, she saved the universe. So good, and playing the duality of it, like herself, just that mean fucking lady, man. And then the new version of her, who's still kind of stoic and unsure of her newfound, good qualities. Yeah, place and
oh my gosh, when she killed the old / new / I don't even know which one was which
version of herself.
I was like, oh man.
But that's what's interesting about the character, right? Because to her, we'll never get the scene. Maybe in the next two. He just did it because the shit had to be done because she was a miserable bitch and she needed to go because if not, he was going to kill herself anyway. Like,
right.
If I'm going to kill myself, I'd rather kill myself than have me kill me. Right. So like, just fucking do it.
Well, and the other thing too was when Gamora was like, wait, this is the one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I love that the punchline to that joke is actually the fact that she just bounced at the end. She's like, she had another half hour to think about it. And she's that dude.
Yep. And now he's stuck with Thor.
And now he's stuck with Thor.
We all know who's in charge. It's me.
Yeah.
Me, right? Of course it's you. Yes, of course.
Well, even those characters got so little time, but every line they spoke was so true to their character and fit the scene so well.
Well, you still have.
I got blaster, rockets. I got blasters, and then someone who brings up, then someone else brings up knives, and then Anson's like, yeah, knives.
Yes, please knife each other.
Yeah. That's good. That's good comedy.
Yeah.
Those are characters you want to hang out with because that's how people would react.
I mean, the world could always use more Drax. I think that might be my one problem. But
yeah.
Well,
luckily, James.
I had fun with Rocket though, at least. So they added him in more than I think I expected they were going to. But
yeah, he had a pretty significant role. Yeah, him and a little moment with him and Nebula at the end. Good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that I forgot about that one. Yeah, that was. I don't know.
They just landed so many cool. I don't know how you guys. Thursday night and IMAX 3D big screen, packed theater. It was a hell of an experience. like just people cheering. And there's like 3 tiers that only goes to tier 2. I'm a shusher and then a shut the fuck upper. Like, I don't want you talking in my goddamn movie, but not on opening night. I don't give a shit. Like, let's have at it. And people were just having a good goddamn time. Actually, the kid next to me was talking. I shut him up. But everyone else, when you're cheering, and then like multiple points, like I got emotional in a couple scenes. They did a good job, but I wasn't crying. Although you can, I don't care. There was 4 to 5 moments throughout, audible sobbing, and like when Ant-Man met his daughter, you don't know what people are going through and how people met his daughter, like that moment. Scarlet Witch bouncing off the concrete, like the and then even Tony going out like a champ. I mean, that was a great moment too with him and Gwyneth Paltrow when she just says, "You can rest now." So that's just great. That's just great writing and great. She was so great in that moment.
It pans actually back to the original Iron Man anyway.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, I just love how it ends with the first. Even though, Captain America is supposed to be the first Avenger. For all of us, we know that Tony or Iron Man, he's the first.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that was great.
So,
I am Iron Man.
I'm assuming you guys stayed for the little audio clip at the end.
Yeah, the little pounding of the hammer.
What do you guys think that's indicative, or do you think it's just like full circle closure?
I think it's full circle. I think it's just a little tribute.
Yeah.
I think it's a little tribute. I think if anybody at this point, this is why they're smart. And this is like, I don't give a damn at some point of a week from now, there's articles with everybody breaking down laws and time travel. Here's why time travel is important in this movie. Because now they can or cannot bring any of these motherfuckers back whenever they want.
Right.
Whenever Robert Downey Jr. burns through all his goddamn cash, Iron Man can show up. And everybody's going to be excited about it. And the same goes for Chris Evans, and the same goes for Scarlet Witch. The same and that's just fun. That doesn't mean all this didn't happen. That doesn't mean people didn't feel the way they felt when they watched this movie. It just means that we're making entertainment, and they have set themselves up to continue to succeed if they need those aces up their sleeves.
Especially too with Guardians of the Galaxy and having him out in space, like for real, with a good spacesuit and whatnot as well. I think if we introduce that out of like nowhere, they find a rift in time, and suddenly he pops out and goes, "Hell is this? What did I do this time?"
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what they will. They nailed the landing so well that they don't need. It's just it's just that if we want to, we can. And there's no way they haven't had those conversations about, look, we could potentially do this. Like it's just right there, right? So
like if Marvel is still going 10 years from now, which I don't see necessarily
they'll
stopping
be around. Well, first off, I don't even think they're filming anything right now, so they're not going to have a movie out for a couple years. So 10 years, they'll definitely.
Well, but I think they're also with
this after Suicide Squad or whatever it's going to be called.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I mean, also they're. I'm assuming Marvel's got something to deal with Disney Plus coming out.
Yeah,
that's. I mean, I know that's probably that's not. I was about to say that's not the cinematic universe, but
no, but it's still tied to. I think they're going to do a better job of time shows if any of those shows are real, because they had Wanda and the Vision.
Mm-hmm.
They had Loki, and they had Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye. But Black Widow had her own movie. It's supposed to have her own movie.
Right.
But those 3 Marvel, we'll see. I hope that goes well. That Mandalorian.
Oh yes,
I think it's going to be good.
Movie. Yeah, that could be interesting.
Hell of a cast,
right?
And good talent. Jon Favreau, running the thing, and then some of those directors are pretty good. So we'll see. I mean, I'm and the other show, the Cassian. Is that his name?
Yeah.
I'm there for that too because I like that guy and I like that character.
I think that one has a lot of promise.
Yeah, I could. People could take this. Could tell you with a straight face that Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I mean, A New Hope is my. But I could also tell
Rogue One. It brought it, like, I know you were talking about that a little bit about with the realism too, but it was like I mean, it was like watching a Star Wars equivalent of Band of Brothers.
Yeah, it was Guns and Navarone with Star Wars.
It was just really like was. I'm like I think that's why I enjoyed it so much was because it was
me
like,
too.
it's like,
Yeah.
hey, these aren't like, this is not going to end well. And everyone
It's
in
the
this
first
knows,
Star Wars movie that was a war.
right. And everyone, but
The
like
rest of them are
everyone
adventure
knew,
movies.
well, and that was the thing is like everyone in them knew that it was going to be not a happy ending, which
Yeah.
really confused me when people went to that movie and were upset that there wasn't a happy ending. But you know, that's a whole different conversation.
That ending is so
I'm
good.
like,
They all got such great deaths. Like,
oh,
they
they
all
did.
died such great deaths.
Oh, they did, and it was just, and it tied. They did a really good job with tying it into the like pseudo new story arc that they're doing with the new movies now that, you know, expanded universe is kind of gone and the remakes and all that. Like they just, I think they did a really good job with it. It just it was a good one.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're doing pretty good. Like people can have Disney's running of this franchise, but I think Rogue One. I like the hell was the first one called? The Last Jedi? No, that's the second one. What's the Force Awakens?
Force Awakens, yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I get and agree a little bit with the I think they needed to play that one that way just to be safe because they had a decade plus of information telling them that everyone was mad, called the prequels. So they had to at least start it in a known with known rhythms. I think at that scale with a franchise this important, maybe it was a safe bet, but I don't know how with that film. And then I think then they took more risks with Last Jedi. And again, like I said, I like it, but I can't even tell you on a scale of what to what until I watch the next one. And I think that's I think that's a good thing.
Right.
When we know it's a trilogy, I think that you could set something up that could either have super excited people or disappointed them to lead people to not understand exactly where you're going to be going in the finale is good storytelling and filmmaking. But then again, like I said, if what comes out, then we can all say, "Oh shit," or "Heck yes, man, they were better at what they did than we gave them credit." And then another, I don't know, people don't like it for some reason, but I would also put Solo very fucking high on my goddamn Star Wars list. And I don't quite understand the dislike for it for one reason only. I don't care what your other problems with it are. I don't care what your Han Solo expectations are. I think that's a silly game to play because of, we were talking about Marvel's casting, how perfect it is. Jesus fucking Christ. Harrison Ford just happens to be God beast for two characters. Like, and you can't just let those characters die because there's ever going to be another Harrison Ford. So regardless of your take on how the kid did as Han, that's the first movie since A New Hope that felt like goddamn non-stop adventure. Like, it just felt like fun in a sci-fi fantasy universe, in the Star Wars universe, and that's what I liked about it. I got some nitpicks, but the whole way through, I was having fun, and the movie moved. So I don't quite get why someone can't walk out of that theater and be like, "Geez, that's not my favorite Star Wars," but it was fun.
Oh yeah, I love Solo, yeah. But I think I'm probably I also was not surprised with, I guess, the slight differences that they took, because I mean the lead up to that also was, you know, the understanding of Han that I had was, you know, and Beard and I have had this conversation, is like the difference between the expanded universe and the new universe, right? The expanded universe Solo was a very different character than the one that
I would just, you could argue just a quick, and I don't mean to interrupt. We call it the expanded universe and the universe.
Or
right?
sorry,
not
the Legends.
Universe.
Yeah, the Legends. Legends expanded. So yeah. So
like
the old.
So you're talking about like the new expanded universe.
Right. Sorry, the Legends versus the current.
So is
canon.
He different even in the books? The new books and stuff like that?
Because like his entire story arc is completely different. Because in Legends he starts a family with Leia and has, I think, 3 kids, and they all are Jedi, and there's like it's like a huge difference.
Not that different from EU, actually.
Well, but I mean what I mean there is that, like, with the arc that Leia is on, there's no First Order. There was none of that. The military portion of Leia's arc was not there. like she was much more of a diplomat within the Legends. And so then he was kind of the, you know, he was not on the front line. He didn't run away. I guess he ran away in the later aspect of the Vong series, but that was it was after a very traumatic event that was completely not in the current EU, because Chewbacca's death.
You ended up getting the Young Jedi series that he really started to be more prevalent.
Right, yeah.
And then from there, he started to be around pretty much all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he kind of figured out, oh, I'm a dad. Crap.
Right, yeah. Which, I mean, in his own way, he was also pretty decent at it, too, so...
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, so, like, that was like, when I went into Solo, I was like, I was trying really, and I guess, you know, this is kind of how I approach most movies anyways, because I don't ever imagine that someone's going to make a movie from a book that's accurate to the book.
Right. I mean, I was just going to say, like, there's a world where a lot of the, you know, be like the throwing away, quote unquote, throwing away of the expanded universe. It doesn't stop the fact that anyone read them and enjoyed them.
Oh yeah, no.
And what it does save all those people that read them and enjoyed them from was someone then trying to make an adaptation that is never going to be as good as the things you read and enjoyed.
Oh yeah.
Now that doesn't mean that, like, I mean, there's arguments to be made. But yeah. I just want the characters to be more in line with what I fell in love with in the books. That's a fair argument, I guess. But I hope people at least understand. Oh man, all your favorite books are not going to, like, compared to the book.
Right. Right.
Don't read Jurassic Park before you see the goddamn movie, kids.
It's nothing like it. It was so good.
See the movie first. The movie first.
What's that? The book was better? What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, if you're going to read one of the books from that series before going to watch Jurassic Park, you should read Lost World, because that book actually followed more along with the movie.
But my point is, if you haven't read a book on it, just read that fucking book after you see the movie, because the movie can never ruin the book. Will almost always ruin the movie.
Yeah,
because there's just so much more depth and so much more that you can page. There's so much you can. That's not to take away from any movie. I know that if you read, like, I saw the Coen Brothers remade True Grit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in the lead up, I broke my own rule, because all they talked about is the book is our Bible. We're not changing anything from the book. I was like, oh fuck, I'm gonna read that book. Hell of a book. Great goddamn book. They changed some shit, man. And now But if I would have seen the movie first and then read the book, I'd like them both.
Yeah, I would be okay with them.
I think what was hilarious about that instance on True Grit, while we're on that topic, I think what they actually meant was the first film was their Bible.
No. They said expressly that the book.
Oh, I know what they said, but I don't think what they said is what they meant.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think they were just trying to play up to the audience on that one a little bit. Which, granted, it worked.
You fucked me, Cohen.
Yeah, really. I mean, hey, you put Jeff Bridges in it. Like, come on, it's got to be something.
Oh, that's good. I mean, I don't think I've watched it. I mean, Coen Brothers maybe my favorite film.
Yeah.
So I like Buster Scruggs is my favorite movie. I've seen that movie I saw the movie 4 times in the theater. Like, I just loved it. I love Westerns. I love the way they tell the story. But that damn True Grit, man. I think it's because I knew that I read Jurassic Park after I saw the movie when I was younger. And reading that book, I was just like, thank fucking God I didn't read this. What the fuck do you mean there's 2 Tyrannosaurus Rexes? What the fuck do you mean there's pterodactyls in a giant dome? Like, what the fuck was that movie? What the fuck was that movie I watched?
And then you read Lost World, you're like, oh, that's the movie. That was what they were going for. Yeah. And what was the other one? Timeline. Timeline was the other one that they did an atrocity with in the movie.
Well, I just think that's a pretty mediocre film, right?
Oh yeah, no, it was. Yes, that's a very kind way of putting it.
Is that the Paul Walker?
Yeah, that's
Gerard Butler in that? Is it Paul Walker?
I don't know if Gerard Butler was in that one. I know Paul Walker.
I don't remember. Yeah, I might be.
But the book was just amazing. And then I was like, what is going on? I don't understand.
Well, what? So you seen fucking Congo? It was Gerard Butler. Nice. Yeah. That's a terrible goddamn movie. Like,
Why did you have to bring that up?
I spent the first 20 hours of this conversation talking about how like everything's hard to make and shouldn't talk shit. But fuck you, Congo. Like,
evidently, we bring it out in you, I suppose.
Fuck you, Congo. Like, first off, my top 5 movies of all time, they can shift and turn. A New Hope, Akira, and Army of Darkness will be in that top 5 every fucking time. And so when Bruce Campbell is in your goddamn trailer for your movie in 1990 whatever, in prime John loving Sam Raimi and Army of Darkness mode, and you kill that bastard in the first 5 minutes just to have a stupid goddamn gorilla say ugly monkey. The end of that movie is so terrible. All those people should be dead. We don't need to talk about the movie. No one's going to watch it. You can erase this part from the conversation. Kids, it doesn't exist. Don't watch it. I'm sure the book is fantastic. So
the book is fantastic, actually. Right. That's the sad part. Is like the book is really good.
That's the one I should have read first, because after seeing that movie, I'm never.
Maybe you should have just read the book.
That's what I'm saying.
Nothing is going to top this book.
I think actually that can be fairly said for most of Crichton's books. Is like,
yeah, that's really true.
The books aren't amazing, but they're pretty good. But the movies just are terrible. Like
except Jurassic Park. I mean, regardless of how good that book.
Well, that's true. Yeah, like the movie was good,
fantastic, and
it's just not accurate to the book.
Theater for the first time. Right. But yeah, I also am not I don't care too much about that. The only reason the book is going to have so much more for you that I think like I said, I think a book can ruin a movie just because it has. Even if the movie is fantastic, the book can still ruin it because there's just more. It's like video games, right? Like you could take Destiny, you could take a Grimoire card and we might have talked about this last time. You could take a Grimoire card that has 2 paragraphs, and you could have just played 3 missions in Destiny that took you however long to play them and heard however much dialogue. Those 2 Grimoire cards with the 2 paragraphs are going to trigger more of your imagination than those 2, no matter how quality those missions. And this goes for any game and any writing around or any kind of experience, because when you're playing the game, you're hearing the sound, you're shooting your gun, you're doing stuff. You're not really embracing, as good as the skybox is, as good as the world environment is, as good as the art is, and the play. You're not really embracing the reality that's being built for you in those moments. You're just going through and living those moments. Like I could write, my office is a fucking mess, and I don't have any of my art, but I could write a description of my office that makes you be like, man, it's a hell of a cool place. And you walk in and be like, what? You just got all your arts on the goddamn floor, and you got giant Godzilla toy sitting on a empty Cintiq box. That's not visually interesting. I was like, yeah, but the paragraph made it sound cool, didn't it? Right.
Well, the other thing is you don't have to pay for CGI in a book, so you can make all the crazy graphics. Yeah.
You can do anything. So,
I mean, unless you're the Destiny community and Nezarek, apparently.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? So John's not to blame for Nezarek, is what I'm hearing.
I know.
No, Nezarek, that's my baby.
What?
That's my baby.
Do you realize how much torment you have caused me?
Yeah,
do you understand the depths of wrath and awfulness you have caused my life and existence with the mere utterance of that name?
What? Yeah, wait, dude. I need. All right. Because
I'm exaggerating this a little bit, obviously.
Right. But. I mean, okay, but go ahead, explain.
It's just been the amount of like the community theories and whatnot behind.
I love them.
It's just
I tweeted about it like a couple months ago.
Right.
Maybe Nezarek is the theories.
Right. I'm gonna
or
say
maybe the theories are Nezarek.
Are Nezarek. Right. Yeah. Now I don't know. I've got more thoughts on him now that like I can officially talk about Truth to Power because I didn't read that earlier or anything. And there's some things that kind of make sense, and I'm wondering where things are going to continue to load back on. Plus, after my deep dive with Lovecraft, I'm wondering 9 and so on beyond that.
The laugh.
And meanwhile, John's just like, you just have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, that's fine. That's what theorists are all about. I'm wrong 90% of the time anyway.
Half of the shit, that's more than half of the shit I wrote for that franchise or I've written for that franchise It's designed for people to theorize about.
Right.
That's the idea. I don't give a
Right.
shit about the reality of the words. I give a shit about the fun that people have imagining stories they can tell. So Nezarek was written intentionally to get people thinking and talking and theorizing and understanding. He's limited. He's not in much because he's not in much. Like, he is what he is, or he isn't what he is. Maybe there's more. I don't know. You guys.
And this is why I lovingly say you have been the bane of my existence for the last several months.
It's a cool name, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it really kind of is. I guess is this the place that I also omit that I've got a new a Dredgen Yor thing that I've got in my mind besides?
Uh-oh, what's that? Let's hear it.
I don't know if you're ready for this one.
Uh-oh.
I really don't know.
That
if
means
you're ready
I am.
For this
Yeah.
one. Yeah, I know. This means I am.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of hit me. Like, I was reading the first Rezel Azir card, and I was sitting here going, "Oh, he had dreams. Oh, he had dreams. Oh, he had whispers even before he had dreams. Oh no!" And I'm sitting here thinking about like what had happened, even with like the 9 as well. And what had allowed for them to approach the city. And all I can think of is the entire reason that Dust has the mention of Crota being on Cocytus is because the whispers, the bones, etc., are a mixing of 9 and Hive technology that he somehow ended up hearing, or the 9 ended up manipulating Yor or Rezel into going up to the moon, and that's how it pretty well all started. And that now Shin is carrying on, and the reason that he's introduced the way that he is in Season of the Drifter is thanks to the fact that he's that's the Shadows of Yor's link to the 9.
Wow, that's a lot. Yeah.
Rough at the moment, obviously, but I haven't written anything out for it just yet.
I got nothing to say.
I mean, I get that you can neither confirm nor deny that this is.
I can see how you would think so, but I couldn't possibly comment on that.
I cannot expressly comment on this.
I got things I want to say, but I like theories. I like that you guys do this creative thinking. I'm not going to say if you're on a good path or a bad path. That's not the fun part. The fun part is the path. Right.
Well, and this is also why I was sitting here watching a playthrough of The Dig by LucasArts earlier. I don't know if you're familiar with the game at all from the olden days, but that tells me immediately I'm not on the right path. The whole thing with it, though, the book of it, or the audio book, I think, more than anything, had actually referenced the station that this crew had been on previously as Cocytus, and they also had seen the eye as this thing that they were that they had referenced, that they go through and so on. So there's just constant link-ups, of course, back to it. And I get that it's far from, one simple mythos that you guys pull from for that one.
I mean, there's, I don't know if this leads anywhere or negates or enhances anything. Aside from a couple things that kind of just were cool little shits in the back of my head that kind of inspired a character or a moment. Like, I think, did we talk about, like, Mulan and how that bad guy.
Yeah, we talked it. Yeah,
and everyone's like, "No, it's the Dark Tower," and I'm like, "It's not." Like,
he ruined it for me.
Like Stephen King didn't invent white hat, black hat. Like,
that's true.
Christ, like, so in any place that story overlaps with known mythologies or stories. Is just from my subconscious. I'm not mapping to anything else. I make the core beats and the through line of what that story was. I came up with in the first hour of looking at those two guns.
Right.
And the details, just the beats. The major beats are there, and a lot of the details are just what the characters then told me they need to do, and then they came home and I to so. if the only puzzle I'm building with it is the puzzle of the story that's being told. That it's not. I'm not trying to be like this is. I'm not intentionally trying to pull from other
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why
moments.
That's also like in my recent video that I had made as well, on the 9 and them being the old gods, so to speak. I had said these are obvious or possibly obvious inspirations that
hold on. Caveat to what I just said. That's me talking about Thorn Last Word.
Right.
Other writers could be tying this shit to who knows what.
So who knows what exactly?
But I mean, this I'm writing. They should like I've everyone, I'm not like necessarily a control freak. I love collaborations, but for the most part, they've allowed me to guide Thorn Last Word story, and even when other people want to use it, at least be able to say, hey, but like this, I got no problem with that direction, or if you want to do that, but it's just this and this just need to be tweaked to make sure that we're keeping it in the theme, and to make sure that some of the things that in any given moment over the last 5-6 years that are coming down the pike, I can still make sure I'm hitting these beats with these characters, because this is who these characters are. This is who they need to be. This is where they need to go. So I don't mind any other element in a light other, as long as it's a color that can then be shown to be not that color. And I don't mind, and I also don't mind if there's a beat or an emotion or a moment that you want to say, oh, I just want to enhance that, and here's kind of blah, 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 blah. So there's, I was just talking about this story in particular. Like I said, other writers could be, because that's part of the fun too. I'm not saying my way, the way of creating Thorn Last Word or creating Thorn Last Word versus the way they're doing any of theirs is one's versus better than the other. They're just two different routes. And other things I've created are like, Jesus Christ, I named a shit ton of weapons, and there's all kinds of references in those weapon names to things that I like and things that I think are interesting. But I tried to keep Thorn Last Word of the world and Destiny. Although I would even argue, and this is like, no one would ever be able to piece this together because it's never stated in world. Even any weapons that I named, none of them should necessarily, well, a couple of them are probably overt. Any of them that are overt references that anything that may or may not be to me are references because somehow someone had knowledge of that thing. Right. And so like the fall will probably kill you. Somewhere somebody found a goddamn laser disc and watched that movie and that just became a phrase. That doesn't mean anyone during the game did it, but during the Dark Ages, and so to me, like any references were still kind of part of like, oh, I think I could easily put down a couple beats if anyone were to ask and say, no, that's not just a stupid pop culture reference. That's actually, in this world, I believe things existed, and in a world where things exist, sometimes things take on a different meaning. So that's where that stuff kind of comes from.
Well, it's the whole, when does something stop being fiction and start being reality because it's had that much influence on your current being or existence in that respect. I see that a lot in some of the Destiny 1 lore, I think especially, because either you guys were running out of ideas, which I don't think was the possibility, or there were just a lot of obvious references for like, this is what the collapse was kind of like, or what we were trying to sort of reference it to, and so on, until we started to get more information for it.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Some's obvious, some is not. It's
for sure. And like I said,
especially when you've got like the Black Armory sitting there in front of your face, like, hey, this is pretty much how it was back in the day, dude. Just saying.
Yeah. I don't know all that fiction. I'm not up on all of it.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna say you guys each have your niches. You gotta.
Well, and that's the cool thing too, is like how, because I'm sure they're all the people who are doing the Black Armory and all that. I think it'd be safe to say they probably have a similar tie-in to their stories as you do with Thorn and Last Word, right?
Tie-in meaning like just their own
like. I hesitate to call it territorialness, but like the sense of like, no, you can do this and this. Like if you
it has to work that way. There's so much content and there's so many things being created. Like if someone doesn't take ownership of a story element, then and other people just take it and run in a different direction, all of a sudden you get a lot of cross purposes as opposed to, the story fitting together, and all of a sudden it's all just white noise, right? Mm-hmm. So people have to be able to take ownership of their chunk of a given moment, and then work with the other people to make sure that at the end of the day, what's most important is the whole of the content. It's not like, to me, what's most important isn't Thorn Last Word. What's most important is how that story can potentially inform someone's experience within the whole of the content that makes Destiny of it. I don't give a shit if you like Thorn Last Word on its own, if it were to then contradict and do damage to the franchise as a whole. Like, all that matters to me is trying to build something. And the whole intent behind Thorn Last Word was to say, I play a lot of video games. I don't think people playing games and some of the things are going to be able to understand some of the emotions and depth to some of this world without being able to tell stories like this in a manner that is outside of gameplay, right? So it's like trying to just enhance the whole, make the whole of the game better than, I guess that, some of its parts. How the fuck does that saying go? Anyway, some old smart saying by someone smarter than me about parts and sums and holes and.
I think that's also important for like the theorist as well. Like, that's what I've loved about the collaborative effort of Destiny in general. Just seeing all of the different perspectives and ideas and stories kind of come together the way that they do, even if they're not necessarily intended to do so, even if you have an overarching idea.
Well, and I think that's also what makes it more realistic too. It's like it's more like reality in that sense, because there are multiple points of view telling stories and multiple stories that need to be told.
You stop that awful perspective talk.
Yeah,
you knock it off right now.
It's all the perspective. Like it really is. I think that's one of the reasons I love it, is because you can read one thing and you guys, or you see it one way and I read it a different way, and it's just. It requires collaboration by its very nature.
Yeah, by design.
Right, and I think that's what I think is so cool about it, is that it's designed collaboratively and it has to be interpreted collaboratively too. Right. Because otherwise, no one single person can interpret that just by the very nature of how it was created.
Right.
No, it's been good to see. I mean, almost like that's kind of paid off. Like, the intent was to build a community. The intent was to provide content that would allow a community to build around something other than just the strategies for shooting of the things.
Yeah.
So the fact that it worked to whatever degree, small or large, and it seems to be fairly large. I'm like, me and other writers were all super impressed by the passion and the energy put into engaging with this content. Like the purpose was to entertain. Mm-hmm. And I hope. I hope that's what we're doing.
That's massive success in my opinion.
Yep.
That's good. And then how's when's Penumbra? That comes out in June, right? So that'll be.
Yeah, I believe that's.
Season of.
I'm making that up. I don't know any dates, by the way, anymore. If I got that wrong, this is me covering my ass. I literally just pulled that on my ass because I think I saw it on the internet somewhere. I don't know shit about dates for nothing.
You are 110% right. It is June. I don't know if we have a straight date, but you are right. Okay. It's okay. All right. Just to help you out there, John.
I got the 30-day chunk right.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, because I tweet someone said something on Twitter the other day about asked me a question about Shin or somebody, and or maybe just the story in general, and I just said. I know what they asked. I just said, I remember what they asked. I just told them, you'll find out in June. No, find out. That's not even the right thing. I said, ask me again in June. Because I was like, I think that's when the shit comes out. And so that's why I repeated it here. But then someone had said, are you announcing stuff in June? I'm like, no, shit. That's just when the next release comes out in June, someone said. And you would think with the release, there'd be some fucking content.
I just love the immediate, I don't know! Leave me alone!
I didn't announce shit. I don't know. I just write the shit, and it comes out when it comes out.
I write it, and then they release.
But my favorite part, to me personally, my favorite part of the Thorn Last Word story, it's small.
Yeah.
It's a small part. Is in June.
It's in June.
I think that's what also makes Thorn Last Word so good for the way that it is presented. Not sounding like I'm sucking up here or anything. Just it's a more concise story, I think, for many to digest versus some of the larger cerebral stories that I think that are out there, which is definitely helped. It's helped for its popularity a lot too.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that some of the books of sorrow that Seth wrote, or the other stuff they wrote for the Dreaming City. I knew the talent we had on that side of the playing field. I wanted to make sure that this story was written to speak to the tone and the nature of an easy. It's white hat, black hat. It's easy. Mm-hmm. We get it. So I just wanted to play around and those themes and those emotions and the nature of that way that was possible, because in a way that required problem solving. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I want you to be able to read any given card, saying that's cool, and then have to figure out where that card fits with the other. We talked about this last time. Where that card fits with the other card. What piece of information I was given here versus here. Blah blah blah. Like I think if it was written in a more complex and I'd even argue interesting manner, I think the story would be less accessible, and that's why that's one of the main reasons it's written the way it is, in quick snippets of dialogue and fairly easy. Even when it gets poetic, it's still fairly easy to follow. I mean, the oddest I got was with the Book of Unmaking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be too fucking weird in terms of like, in terms of like following the cadence and what the actual meaning of the different snippets, the different things leading to the understanding, and where the repetition actually matters and where it doesn't, and all this other stuff. Like, I know what it all means at the end of the day. I figure someone else will figure it out too.
I mean, I'd hate to say it, but I'm pretty sure that the Books of Unmaking are the entire reason that I have the theory that I do. Like, all of a sudden things started to like branch out. Like, I'm so used to the way that like the other writers went that I think immediately when I thought of this, I was like, well, it makes sense for the rest of it. And I'm like, wait a minute, this probably wouldn't work with the way that Jon writes, though.
Right. Well, I'm gonna and I'll also say, and this is, God damn it, I'm not telling you that you're wrong. And I'm not telling you that you're right again. And what I'm about to say, I don't want it to lead you in either direction. I want you to look at all the information, because at any given point, I'm open to any interpretation and any shifting and or I got to work in circles just to fucking make a goddamn. Well, because I think what I'm about to say, if taken too literally, could hinder theorizing and the fun of puzzle solving, which is not the intent, because what I'm saying doesn't mean that it's as simple as all of this. But what I will say is, I think the more interesting worlds created with world building are the ones where everything does not fit together. In terms of all the disparate stories, not in terms of the story I'm telling or anyone else is telling or the story we're telling together. I'm trying to say that I think a world is more interesting when it's larger and some things are lost on some people, as opposed to a world where everything eventually happened for a reason and everybody. As a matter of fact, worlds where everybody knows each other are worlds I would gladly destroy.
Fair
so
enough.
Whatever that does to your theories,
worlds I would gladly destroy.
That is my that's my tombstone.
Well, may as well just close up the channel. That's it. I'm not going to tell you which one.
I'll tell you though, that doesn't mean at some point I won't gladly be hired to fish it together. Right. But I'm just saying that's a defining theory. I want bigger worlds. These things look connected because themes exist across the universe. But just because themes exist doesn't mean moments in time touch.
Right.
I like that though. That's a really a really good. I think that's accurate for most world building too, though. In general,
I
is
agree.
that
Yeah.
the ones that draw you in are the ones that don't make sense. That's what makes you interested, because you're like, okay, this got to make sense. Like, this has to make sense. I'm just missing something. You know, it's
Well,
that,
just also the idea that like two different elements that have an oddity in common, like in the vastness of time and space, like those things don't have to have crossed to still inform one another.
Right.
Because, and I'm not saying they actually inform one another. I'm saying that your understanding of one might help you better understand the other, even though those two, if those two became sentient, they look at each other and be like, I don't know that kid, right? So that's what I'm saying.
No, that makes sense.
Oh, thank God. I'm just kidding. I knew I did. I just wasn't explaining it properly.
Oh man. Well, I think if we want, we can wrap it up.
All right.
And let you get back to organizing your office, as I hear.
No, I got to pack it all up. I'm making.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm taking my computers with me, and I'm driving now.
Oh god. That's gonna be rough. But
that's all right. That's what you got to do. Sometimes I'm all over the place. I'm in Fresno today. I'll in Washington on Monday.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, Beard, do you have any closing remarks? Last questions?
Just that, John's completely wrong about his own writing. I'm totally right in this. No, I'm kidding.
I'm not saying you're not right. I'm not saying it. I'm just telling you.
I had to get it in there somewhere. No, John, this is the first time I've been able to talk to you personally. It was fantastic. So I thank you very much.
This is great. Oh, you weren't on the last
one?
I can't remember. That was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a while ago. No, I actually just started with these guys. What was it now? About a year and a half
about a year ago. Yeah, year and a half
All
ago.
you podcasters sound the same. Wait,
a
half ago?
I think the conversation we had was maybe 2 years.
I was going to say, I think it was longer than that. I think it was about 2 years. Yeah.
Okay.
I know. I haven't seen anything else from you and these guys.
No, it was just the one. Yeah, it was just the one time. I just like it was such a good time. It felt like a week.
Because it was. I really think it was right after some of the last Rezel Azir stuff had dropped.
I think it was, and I think it might have been before Destiny 2, actually.
Yeah, I think it was like right before.
It was Rise of Iron.
Yeah, I think it was Rise of Iron.
Wasn't it right after? It was like, hey, guess what?
Yeah, because it was. I think,
yeah. Yep.
It was right after that mental implosion across the internet happened.
Holy
What's
shit.
that?
Hey, so I don't
yours a Titan? What?
Suckers. And then that's an in-fiction response, by the way, because Hunter should believe he's a hunter. This is this. There, no one was wrong.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Everybody loves the reiterate. No one was wrong.
That's interesting. So I'm gonna.
What was that?
I don't pay that much attention. I'll check out every now and then, and people will send me some links or people will tweet me something. So what is your? And this is, I don't really care. You can say it was shitty. You can say like it. Like, so the last batch of this story that came out with Joker's Wild. We can keep this short. And I look, nothing can possibly hurt my feelings. I like what I write. I don't give a shit what anybody else thinks about it. So the thoughts. The Shin shit. Good, bad, and different. Any thoughts from you or what you've heard from people? I don't know.
I've heard nothing but good things at this point. I think
I've heard a lot of confused people, but that's that's just because again. No, that's not
I think there's a lot of confused people in like what was, and granted, I'm going to be talking about writer's intent here, which I know is kind of a dangerous thing in a way, but
go for it.
Like the intent of the shadows and whatnot, and like they're walking that thin line, so to speak.
Yeah,
and their presentation is neither dark nor light, and that Shin's whole idea is to present it to walk in the shadow of Yor, but never quite catch up to where he is. And there's so many that I think have kind of missed that point with how the writing was presented.
Yeah,
which
Well,
I think was
people-
fantastically done, but I know
Yeah.
that many have kind of just missed it.
that's fine with me. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
I think the people tend to gravitate towards like the very black and white paradigm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so like especially in first person shooters, so the breaking of that mold, I think, is if you're not paying very close attention, like super close attention to the out of game content, like
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people, well, I mean, a prime example is the Allegiance quest that was in game. Like a lot of people saw it as it's either, you're either this or that. And it's like when you start digging into it, it's like, well, not really. Like there's some more there's some more stuff going on behind the scenes. And we've had a lot of conversation about that recently. But I mean, the whole thing with the Book of Unmaking, especially, like I love the Book of Unmaking because I think it's an amazing kind of introduction of a kind of a school of philosophy into the sort of pseudo black and white story of the saga of yore.
What's that blue? What's
What?
that blue? It's like it's like religious text.
Yeah, it's like a religious text, which is, gosh, man, how many times are we going to bring that up? But I mean, like, I
feel like John was kind of targeting or channeling Seth on that one for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love how it at first, like when you first got it, it was like, okay, this is the shadows. They're kind of we don't really know what they're doing. They're kind of they claim they're not, but they are, but they're not. What are they doing? And then like with the whole thing with For Every Rose, a thorn, I think when you start realizing, I think the only question for me really honestly is, and I think Beard and I, we kind of are, well, I don't know if we're on opposite sides of this one, but it's like, who knows who or who knows what about Shin, I think is the only question really outstanding right now. And I think I imagine that's probably by design because there's so many different ways you can read like the interaction between Shin and what we've come to refer to as the inner circles of the shadows, which are the named dredges. It's like, do they know or do they not know? I mean, there's so many different ways you can read, especially Tebin. Like, he could know or he could not know. He could be being duped or he could be, the gotcha man. It works either way right now. And so as more clarity comes, I'm really interested to see where that particular piece goes because to me, that's going to be really I think that's going to show how masterful Shin really is about playing all these masks that he's wearing. And I also find it, I was thinking about this today. I find it really interesting that Drifter is known as the man with no name or a man with no name, and Shin has a ton of different names. And like, it's like, it's a dichotomy between those two. And I don't know. I mean, that's just my brain kind of latching on to different things. But like the growing dichotomy between, I like the fact that we're getting more facets to the world of Destiny. We're no longer light and dark. We're now light, dark, shadows. Now we have the 9 kind of banging around out there. We have the Awoken that are doing their own thing. Like there's all of a sudden there's a lot more facets to this kind of this gem that is going on.
I do know there was a lot of speculation of the Drifter's going to be dredging yore. He's going to be.
There was some theory.
That's awesome. Like I said again, the story is not set up for like not everybody spends the same time and have fun with 1,000 things, right or wrong. So at some point, guys like you know the majority of the correct steps along the way, right? So there will be people that will be wrong. None of it's real, so it doesn't fucking matter, right? We've
had this conversation.
Yeah. So, and not only that, it was set up to make people that aren't paying close attention believe certain things because I'm trying to make a story that quasi brings you into the universe, makes you feel how the people in the universe feel about these characters. Like that's the most important aspect of it, aside from just the overall, puzzle piece nature designed to build theories is the idea that you're kind of any given person. If you wanted to look at someone else's argument for a given take, and then a given take on an aspect of the story, and then you wanted to say, well, how would if I looked at that person as someone in the universe, I could see why they would believe that based on the information in the universe. So with that said, I don't really remember the point I was making. It had something to do with
fun.
I think fun. Well, I was going to say, with what you're talking about, who knows what, I mean, there'll be a little bit more of that. I think everyone should know by now. I'm never going to give everything, and it was a hard. When I wrote that fucking card, oh, dude. When I wrote that card that said, "My name is Shinalfar, my name is Toby, my name is Charles, my name is this guy, my name is this guy. You can call me stepdad." Like
you could have legitimately just kept adding names to that, and just that would have been the whole card.
But it was also it's the one card that's kind of the end. It was asking for trust from the player and from the readers, right? Because it's the one card that went against. It's the one time I just fucking said it.
Yep.
Like I just said something and didn't keep piecing it out for people and then say, wait a minute, it's this. Although I think you might be able to see some things here or there. Not as much. This one was more, I think when you look back at the Rezal shit and you read that first card, you're like, no shit.
Well, and that's what I was explaining to people. It's like you guys, for everyone who's joining the game now and is reading all these, they're like, well, of course that's who it is. I'm like, but you don't understand. We had one
the emotional turmoil.
We had one card. We had one card, and then we got the other card that was at the end of the story. Like, I mean,
but
it's
still,
like
there's a couple of moments, like even in the first one a little bit. But I was like, maybe someone's going to theorize it. And I think like the second one and definitely the third one, I was like, well, this is cat's out of the bag. And then it came out and I was paying attention then. And I was like, what? It says it right fucking there. And then I was like, okay, well, I already know what it's going to be. So I thought originally, the fourth card was going to be like hitting the nail on the goddamn head too much. And then it was like, nope, it's needed.
It's needed
over people's head.
So that, it was still, but that's fine. Again, it was the intent. It wasn't the intent to mislead any. The intent to lead because it's fun. But again, not to guide anyone's thinking or thought, but I think this information's there. I don't remember what the element of the original Thorn Last Words card. There was one thing. Oh, it was the Shin. There was a thing about Shin in one of his early cards that was there that no one ever asked about or no one ever mentioned when they were talking about how he had never died. And then finally someone was, he mentions a light here. Like, what's that all about?
Yep.
Right? And I was like, well, no, fuck, yeah, it's been there forever. I thought this was going to be something people were going to fucking pick up on. And so that's what is interesting to me. And so this is also like, when you get into it and you have the big element. So you start to get caught up on the Hunter versus Titan on Jaren Ward is Dredgen Yor or Shin Malphur is Dredgen Yor or all of a sudden this whole, and this is part of the fun over the past few years, especially the early years up through like the Rise of Iron of watching the story when I was watching a little bit more closely online and how people were reacting to it, was to see how like I kept looking at that beat because I thought it was the most interesting, the second most interesting beat, and I'm like, but they just won't get over the glaring headline, which is who is this guy? And and I was like, even like I've listened to your guys' podcast, I listened to the Bife videos, I listened to those, and I'm just like, fuck no, they're all the community has led even the people paying attention to miss a thing because the headline is too interesting. Interesting might be a strong word, but too glaring. And so
too in your face compared to I think the rest of what Destiny is and a lot of rights.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And so finally the people kind of pieced that together, and then cards in, was that D2? When did those cards come out? Forsaken, all the little ghost cards and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, that was Forsaken. Yeah, when Tianchi and all that.
The
Confession of Hope. Yeah. Because I remember reading those.
Right? Like,
I remember reading those, and I was like, "Oh my god, that because for the longest time, Shin was the outlier, like with all the other
No, he
light
wasn't
bearers.
because he mentions a light in like his second.
And that's what honestly that card. The reason I know exactly what card you're talking about is because that's the card that I've used quite recently in defending. Like, I've been arguing that Tianchi, that entire thing is Shin. And it's like, no, because it's like, okay, it's not clearly stated, but there's like four or five pieces that they just align.
I would argue there's 5 pieces. Let's say out of your 4 pieces, and the 5th piece is the fact that every other Thorn Last Word card doesn't align immediately. Like that's a piece of the puzzle. Like that should tell you something. So okay, I thought that one would be together. That's the only reason I brought it up. So I hope anyone that was like, I didn't know, everyone should know that shit by now. Like that's the Confession of Hope. Like it's called the Confession of Hope.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that made me go, oh no, why did you say Confession of Hope? Because I thought of Dredge and Hope as the Drifter. I was talking about Shin anyway.
Yeah.
Like
as far as I'm concerned, and I haven't talked to Joe running the Drifter. Like I hope, to me, Confession of Hope is sorry, not Confession of Hope. Dredge and Hope is him mocking the Shadows when he took his name.
Oh yeah,
right? Like and I haven't asked him that directly, but I just assume. Like he's the only one who's like Confession of Hope. Like that's mocking. That's mocking first what the fronts the others are putting on with their names and all that stuff, and then also just how much hope is used in those cards. Like Drifter knows how to fucking rub some dirt in people's eyes. So,
well, if you actually play to a point with the game, he gets comfortable enough to tell you. In the Allegiance quest, I think it is actually. Yeah, he says, "I give Dredgen out just to piss him off."
Yeah.
I loved that little line.
That was my favorite part about all the stuff that's happened with these newer Dredgen, because I set up of him and everyone wondering who he is and stuff like that. And I know that some people have been like, "Oh, people are mad that he's not a Dredgen anymore." No, that's what makes him interesting.
Right.
He dabbles in it all. That's what, and it also speaks to my not everybody touches, even though he touched it. That doesn't mean he is. That doesn't mean he like people need to have their own experiences in this world. And someone like the Drifter who has seen a shit ton and done a shit ton, and the fact that he's tied to the Shadows and tied to this legend, but is still his own man as opposed to being just another piece of this story, makes him and the universe infinitely more interesting.
Right. Well, guys, and then jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. No, he's cool. Drifter's cool. Mm-hmm. I can do without the Matthew McConaughey. No, people. I'm not. Look, not everything shouldn't be everything to one. Everything should be something to everybody. And so I don't hate it. That was just me just talking a little shit, but not really, because I think he's a great character. I think he's a great character. It's ill-placed shit talking because I love the character and I love what he does for the universe, and I love his persona, and I love it just seemed like an easy target to hit. But they hit it because everybody says all right. Like he literally stole the dude's catchphrase, and everyone just loved it. So, what the hell do I know? It's awesome.
That and ding.
Oh.
Ding. Yeah.
Oh man!
Please don't.
Two
things.
Yeah, go for it.
I had two. One, there's actually one's for Blue. Before I forget about it too. Read over the long con again, Blue.
Okay.
And get the idea. Just kind of thinking about what we were talking about with the whole who does Shin know? Who has he revealed himself to?
Well, and also, so I actually just say something about that. I mean,
sure.
This is not another. I don't want to guide anyone's. I'm a broken record, but a piece that I don't know that people are paying attention, and this does not give any fucking answers. So actually, what I'm saying, do not read too much into. Do not then go back and look. I think it's a fairly obvious beat that's also easily overlooked. Mm-hmm. Is the fact that, and I'm not ever going to put a fucking timestamp on shit, but I think that you could look at some of the cards and when they were written originally versus when they're written now, and start to kind of understand that there is time and space involved here. Just because you got them on a Tuesday while playing Destiny doesn't mean they were all written that Monday.
Exactly.
In universe.
Exactly.
So that's something to kind of take into consideration as you're looking at some of this stuff. And that, again, I'm not going to timestamp it. So that's not going to tell you then to say, here's the only timestamp I'll give. Shin Malphur has written you, the player, some cards. That's happening fairly now.
Yeah.
That's happening now.
Okay,
when the rest of them are taking place, when when just because you have the pages from the book of unmaking with Tebin's notes doesn't mean those notes were written last week.
Yep. Exactly what.
As a matter of fact, fucking spoiler, they weren't fucking written last week.
That's acceptable.
So that might go into something like who, when, and more importantly, like what does that matter to win?
Yeah,
and does it? So that's just it. I think that's an easy to over because you're just looking at all the text in the here and now. And again, if this game and universe had timestamps, which I don't think it should, even though I know it makes it harder to piece things together. I find that stuff to be a little confining and dull. When you're talking about the bigger scheme of things, there's some things that need to be slotted in. But this story will, like, as far as I'm concerned, aside from you being able to read a card and think about when, these letters are to the player. His first cards where he says, "My name's Shamalfer, I'm from Palamon, blah, blah, blah. This is my story. What do I know? What do I don't know?" He didn't write those for you. Those are pages of a story found that could have been written at any point, when he was, who knows where.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
I also appreciate the call out from the very first card that he's not telling the full and honest truth, but no one else knows the difference.
Well, and he starts with that in a lot of rights too, with the story from the last word. Where
that's what I mean. Is like he's like
recollections
my recollections,
my own. Yeah.
and he's like, and no one left alive to tell otherwise. So it's my story now.
And so I would say into that. Maybe I did at the beginning. But I think there got to a point where people thought there were the stuff like, especially I know there was a part where people were like, well, what's folklore? What's not folklore? Everybody's lying to us. Who's not lying to us? Shin's saying that isn't to say that he is making any of it up.
Right.
Like, no. Recollections is fully truth. He is telling you what he remembers is the truth, and he is giving you pieces of it. Any given story ever in the history of time and space has multiple perspectives where someone else could say, that's not how it happened. And either one of those people could be their perspective. So I don't want anyone to think that when Shin says that kind of stuff, that doesn't mean he's always truthful. He fucking lied to you about his identity for a little while. Like
that was a conversation. He's like asking us to trust him after he admitted that he just lied to us.
Well, the admission is so that doesn't do. But what I don't want it to do, or is what I'll say, because this might break some people going back and having new theories or whatever. Like the Thorn Last Word story isn't a lie.
Mm-hmm.
It's not made up. He's telling it how it happened to him, and you learn more along the way. Like cards about did those cards get released with the Shin shooting first and Dredge and not shooting?
Right.
Is those cards out in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. I don't remember. There's one more chunk, and I can't remember.
Yeah, because that was the lesson taught was the
that was the idea. Yeah. So so you learn that, like, you didn't know, he didn't tell you that. So there's information there. But I think if you look at the story and how it was meant to be from his point of view, when he was writing that stuff down in the original version of the story, even though that was always the reason given in the new story, is always the reason Dredge and Fire. Although I think people might be taking it too specific to, like, I don't know that anyone is really, so Jaren, like, got his shot off, like, that's in there, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember what's out there. All right,
that part is because
like, aside from a few assholes, everybody gets the first shot,
right?
Because you're not going to win, and if you do,
then that's the point.
That's the fucking point,
right?
Rated T.
I'm going to say what. Oh God, my common phrase for this is why they couldn't show how he died so graphically.
I wasn't. Yeah. No, 20th times. That's why I said it. Yeah. I get that. I want T for team. I like kids being able to enjoy content. Absolutely. I like it also being able to get a little and give them, some freedom. I don't know if kids are reading these, or it's just all the older audience. Give them something a little bit creepier that still fits the mold of entertainment that they can warp much, yet they can find RoboCop on their own. Like, I don't, I watched that shit when I was 8. Didn't turn. I pretend I turned out all right. So.
The second thing I had actually before.
Oh, but I interrupted with the time thing.
That's okay.
One was
the.
I don't remember. I interrupted. Sorry.
That's okay. Now the one was about like the dredging who he knows, etc. So yeah, check the long con again because I think that's a tie back. Second though, which I know we had brought up a couple times now in the show, was the Widow's Court entry. With
Ikora.
Shin. With Shin talking to his ghost, really.
Yeah.
And it was more. He's talking. Shin is talking with his ghost about the shadows. This seems to be after he was done talking with Ikora about what the Vanguard are going to do to take care of the shadows and whatnot. And he goes, obviously, of course, I can't remember verbatim, but goes to the extent of, well, the Vanguard have their eyes on a lot of things. And the ghost basically asks him, what is it that you're going to do? When Shin goes, what must be done?
Yeah.
And I know that's been a contention for some, and I see why they would read it that way, as like, well, this is where the quote-unquote retcon has come in for, like, how Shin might have been handled or changed from, like, the good renegade to the now Shadow of Yore as we know him to be.
Wait, so they're saying that him saying good guy?
It's that he would have been the blanket renegade and only the renegade, not the Shadow of Yore possible leader, etc. that we've seen.
You don't think him? So my argument. Look, and when I just said doesn't mean he's a good guy. I think he's a good guy. But to anyone who thinks that's a retcon, you think him starting the Shadows of Yore and doing anything to do, or are you saying him talking with the Vanguard?
Him possibly starting it while talking with the Vanguard and then saying, I'm going to go take him down, is the now retcon for some that I have kind of heard. And I get their arguments in some regard for where their perspective's coming from.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. I get it. They're taking it super literally. He's going to go take, I'm going to go do means I'm going to, I mean, yeah, that's interesting. I like, it's like saying is making him Rezel is a retcon. He's set. Well, I'm just saying only in that, like he's there. He's setting up a reality for people to believe so that he can have like, I'm not. There's no. There's been beats and moments here or there that have been tweaked based on story elements and things like that. The other things going on in the game. There's been this character and this story has been on a path he's been on since 2012. So as a matter of fact, I'm sure there are people, other writers and other people that are like, would you just finish your fucking story?
Meanwhile, we're just like, no, finish it.
I mean, to be honest, it could have ended. I would have been fine with like that. Could have been an ending, and if it would ever this like and maybe someday expanded in a book or a comic, like or never. I would have been fine with leaving out there and that line and people never knowing. I would have been perfectly fine with that. But eventually, Forsaken comes around. We're going to do more lore. There's more opportunity to kind of get this shit out there and tell the next chapter. So fuck yeah, I'm gonna tell the next goddamn chapter. It's been inside me since. Like there are you like and this is every writer and every storyteller. So this isn't me saying more. She's like, there are stories with this fucking character. You people are never. There are elements that I think are infinitely cool than the things that I've put it in the cards. People are never going to hear because I think the pieces in the cards are better for the tone and better for the rhythm, for the piece of the puzzle I'm trying.
Right.
So there are moments, like I said, in the next bit, there's a small little thing that I think is the coolest element of the story because I know what it means to other moments that might never get told. And part of it are never going to get told. We'll keep moving this story forward. I don't necessarily care about the pieces that are missing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never really did. I put in the pieces, but they're like, these characters have lived 1,000 lives and all the same life. I know exactly where this this character goes. I know exactly who he's supposed to be. I know exactly who the elements, and that can kind of ebb and flow as other content comes, as the drifter comes in, and all these other things. We start to add other little pieces here and there. That, you know, their story is the story from A to an eventual Z, and Rise of Iron could have been a Z.
Yep.
I would have had no problem with it. But there are 100 more Z's after it.
Yep.
And there are 100 more Z's after it. I mean, there's an ending. There's not 100.
Well, I thank you for clarifying that all the same. I definitely appreciate that.
Hello?
Hey.
Did I miss you? Did we cut out, or did I lose the call?
Yeah. I don't know what happened.
bit.
I think it just cut out.
Yeah.
Probably during the best part. It was all worthless nonsense anyway.
Well, all the same, I was actually going to follow up with that a little bit because from
Wait, what did you even hear? What the fuck did I just say? I just went on like a
40-minute
fucking ramble, and then it just was quiet, and I was like, "Geez, that was uninteresting." And I was like, "Oh shit, the call dropped out."
No, you were saying how you know what the character is, you know how many like A's to Z's, etc. there are. You know that there is an ending and such, but the one that you want to tell is also different from the one than the one that we may see in essence.
No. So I was saying, I mean, just
stories that we may never see, I should say.
Yeah. The clarity is there. Whatever ending I give, whenever I think I've given, like I said, I thought Rise of Iron was going to be the end, and I was perfectly happy with that ending. At any given moment, if the next chunk of content is the end, I'm perfectly happy with that ending.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfectly satisfying ending.
Sure.
But there are other stories. Like I said, just because there's pieces that haven't been told back forth for, you know, like but good stories have endings. So at any point, I try to always write. I mean, even before Rise of Iron, it could have been over.
Right.
Like I was fine with all of that, and never actually saying out loud that Rezel was Dredgeor. I was fine with people. Some people wondering, and other people never even putting the two together. I was perfectly fine with that ending. But as the more opportunities come up to tell more of it, I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Why not?
Yeah. If the story, that's it. But again, you know, this all gets, people can read a lot of things into this. I'm not making up the new shit is what I'm saying. I'm saying I could have ended if the stuff before Rise of Iron would have been my ending, that would have been a perfectly fine ending.
Sure.
But that isn't the end of the story. If in my head, which is irrelevant compared to what actual content is released.
Right.
So I am always trying to create to make sure that when the last bit I touch gives an ending to what has been seen so far, whether or not there's more to be told. So that's just to try to clarify whether or not, well, if you had an ending, then everything after it you just made up. Nah. Like we could talk for another hour right now and I'd never do it, but I could tell you the rest of this goddamn story. Right. But I'm not going to do it because first off, I can't.
You kind of like your job in a way, and the money's
like
sort of nice.
Shit.
Yeah, that too.
I just it's not how things are done. So
no, not at all. And I was going to say I appreciate that entirely because I've had over the last year with creation and whatnot as well. Like I've had I've written stuff on my own, and I've had those little like inner bugs in my head of like, well, is this good enough, etc., etc. I'm sure you kind of gone through pieces that way too, because I don't
every
know
single
creative
time
that hasn't at this point. In
every
their lives.
Single thing. Yep.
But like I kind of struggled with that idea, and I saw where things were going with Destiny's lore, with Destiny 2, and how that was kind of going. Again, I will never understand or know the inner workings of what happened behind the scenes, but suffice to say, what I think most of them that were like screaming or getting up in arms about things being like, oh, this is getting terrible, this is getting awful, I was kind of in the back there saying, hey, they've kind of shown us like how things progress and go with time. Like, just give them a little bit here, give them some time to sort of like work out the stories that they're trying to tell. Because I go back to the one of my old favorite cards is the one with Toland, where he's talking about the worm gods
Yeah.
But at the time where we had zero idea about who the Worm Gods even were, where that card was released in the Dark Below,
Yeah.
how that card evolved with time. It's the continued thing of like how we're kind of seeing stuff with Curse of Osiris and the prophecies and how they're being told to us in a way. As well as also like what's been done here with your works with Shin and so on, regardless of any theories that may like pop up, crop up, etc. And then also the stuff with even though it's complete, like all that Mr. Toe has done is just Dead Space fan fiction with Drifter. I completely kid. It's just how his story has developed and how it has also changed from Forsaken proper to what we have today with Season of the Drifter, or even in Black Armory. You know, the stories that are being told are with time, and I don't think that's what's given enough with the way that I think the community has kind of been focusing themselves.
Well, it's a two-way street, right? Like, it's hard to... I mean, some of this stuff needs to be, just in any given endeavor, Destiny or otherwise, like, just need to be... Like, the intent was never really communicated. Like, when D1 came out and the idea of this game and this story that was going to grow with its audience, the audience was going to grow their knowledge of the world as the releases came out. Nobody knew that because no one said it.
Right.
So when the game comes out, and again, I think I said this last time too, but I was apparently a decade ago, so I'll repeat it, is I think with D1, there, 4 or 5 beats are hit a little better. A lot of the story problems are alleviated. So that's a problem on us, right? The other problem on us, which I think is actually would have helped the community and the response to the game more even than hitting those beats, was saying expressly, we get it, but this story is going to evolve with you. If you don't trust us because we missed these couple of beats, we understand that, but we think this world and this gameplay is going to engross you, and the story is going to engross you enough that you're going to stick around and you're going to see what we're talking about. This isn't Halo. This isn't a one and done. You're playing through it and you're getting this linear story. This world's going to grow with you. And I think it would have just at least planted the seed for people to be more open, as opposed to then having to learn that it was going to grow with them over time, which they didn't really learn well until, probably like how, I thought, I'm a big fan of Dark Below, but it was fairly limited release, fairly small in its scope. I thought that was the first sign of that. And then obviously House of Wolves was a little bit bigger sign of that. And then Taken King really kind of was like, see, like now you can kind of see over the course of these 4 releases, D1 through Taken King, like this world is growing and you're starting to know more about those corners. That was always planned.
Yeah.
Like that was always the planned growth of the whether or not anyone gets better at doing that. That's the job of the professionals doing it, is to get better at what they're doing every time. Whether or not the first one, whether or not D1 was a home run narratively or not, it still had to get better every. Right. So unfortunately, it started and it got knocked for its story. And I think that if we would have just said, but I think there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of shit going on. You're releasing a big game. There's a lot of other things going on. I just don't think it was, it worked out. The Destiny's a hell of a franchise. So, but I just think narratively and lifeline and a boost to the community, the narrative community at that time, to just know, cool. But we trust us. We know what we're doing. And I think the content eventually said that, so maybe it didn't need to be said. But in the meantime, there was a lot of, like you said, a lot of complaints. They were complaints, but that's not just. Sure. Yeah, rough waters. Complaints are valid. You're allowed to complain about it. It's interesting though. People will complain about goddamn Destiny and keep playing it, but they'll be pissy about one Star Wars movie and never watching their Star Wars movie again.
Yeah, really.
What the fuck?
That means your franchise is doing pretty good then. If that's comparison, if that's the comparison.
Well, just in general, it's like imagine like watching Breaking Bad and seeing the one bad episode you hate, and it'd be like, I'm not watching Breaking Bad ever again. What? That doesn't make any sense. Like the majority of the content's a hell of a thing. I was just trying to bring it back full circle because that Star Wars trailer is great. The Emperor is going to win. Everybody's going to die. Rise of Skywalker is a lie. The Emperor is really Luke Skywalker. Darth Vader is a Titan, and that's all I got.
That's all I got.
Shadows of Yore were created well before the Force Awakens ever came out, so they're not the Knights of Ren.
Are you sure though? Like I don't know if I can trust your input on this one.
Man, when I saw that scene in the Force Awakens, I was like, "That's cool."
Yeah,
that's cool. My guys are on the screen. Guys and gal.
Guys.
Oh man. Well, we appreciate you taking the evening to chat with us.
Yeah, I hope I didn't ramble too much.
No, we'll have to do it again before another decade pass.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll have more grays in my beard than I do now.
Yeah, hit me up. We could do maybe after the next content release, if you guys are interested. We can at least do a short thing where I'd be interested to see what. I guess I could hit you up over Twitter too. So it's up to you guys. Just see what you think about my favorite part,
or if we even noticed it.
Someone will notice it, and then it won't be a big deal, or people will be mad.
Or people will be mad.
I don't believe that. That was a joke. Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
awesome.
But I'm around. So
sure.
You guys are fun to chat with. So hit me up.
Awesome. We appreciate it. All right. Well,
all right.
I will get this edited. Do you want me to send you a copy before we release it, or
no? I'm not going to listen to this again.
Fair enough.
Gee, we love you too, John.
Once it goes up, I may listen to it. But I'm not gonna pre-listen to it just like.